or land. It wouldn't have crashed regardless.
It's the fact that it was in orbit for 50 fucking years.
Oh my god, you guys.
Sure
right
it was.
All right, I'll go and fetch you the article that explains what happened.
Yeah, it explains what happened, but it has no evidence for it.
Bullshit. Yeah, how can I get evidence to say the bird trap, you dummy?
He's talking about like evidence for the flat Earth. You're talking about.
Oh no,
I'm talking about evidence of this satellite, this so-called satellite.
Oh, well, okay, so why don't you do what I asked of you like 20 odd minutes ago? Where's your actual physical evidence of the flat Earth?
It's everywhere.
Yeah. No, not evidence. Not saying it's everywhere.
Have you ever seen a horizon? There's your evidence.
Oh,
yes.
Oh.
It's a horizon. It's not a curve-izon.
I'm glad you asked. Hang on a minute.
Joe Didge.
give me about 3 minutes and I'll show you curved fucking horizon, motherfucker.
And while he's on it, so the Earth is flat because... Complete that sentence, Mr. I can't even spell my fucking name, so I can't write it.
The Earth is flat because that's what we all experience.
I don't.
Like how he speaks.
Every single person here, if they rely on their senses, is certain that they observe a flat and motionless Earth.
Well, no, it's not actually that. You want the truth, right? What happened was NASA and the USSR was started by the Nazis. And
don't really care what you think. Flubber, wubber, whatever the fuck your name is. We're interested in what you're saying.
And yeah, Eva Braun, like all of them, man. Like the head of the NASA. Like Operation Paperclip. Look up Operation Paperclip.
Dude, Crusader, you're not answering the question because it was asked at percentage. I don't know how to spell my name, not you. Do you understand what shut the fuck means? Because you seem to be struggling with basic sentences and single syllable words.
Can you explain it?
Anyway.
Can you use syllables like more than 4, please?
No, he didn't want to use the word up. Seriously? He just wants to shut the fuck. That's it.
Shut the fuck.
Percentage guy, that's it. You don't experience it. But I do. I can see it.
You can see what?
I can see a curve.
Really?
All of you fucking awesome need to shut the fuck up.
Where do you see the curve, bro?
Right there. Have a look. Check that out. All right. Have a look at this picture.
Thanks.
Okay. This dumbfounded chemo.
Yeah, that's called barrel distortion, bro.
How's it in the center of the fucking lens?
Does that look like it's the center of the lens?
Look where the two curves come, because there's two different fucking horizons, dipshit.
Yeah, that looks like above center.
What are you
it's
crazy?
Not absolute center frame. Nice try.
Okay, but here's the thing you missed.
Let me jump in here. Ad hominems, or you might as well filibuster without ad hominems, because ad hominems are a logical fallacy. Filibusters aren't.
Crusader, I'm not talking to you.
Guys.
All right. Now, percentage. You didn't even ask what camera that was taken with to actually make that determination. Oh, you don't care?
I don't care.
Guess what? There was no barrel on the camera that was
Every camera has barrel distortion.
Does it?
Every lens has barrel distortion.
Are you a camera specialist?
Because lenses are curved.
Are you a camera specialist?
No, but I know that.
So you're not a camera specialist.
You have to get it dead center, like leveled onto the center frame for it to not exhibit that barrel distortion.
No, but it's not true. It's not true.
He's right. He's totally right. He used more syllables. Anyone who uses more syllables is correct. I need to go and do my
Jesus Christ, mute this.
That's why I win, because flat Earth is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in every single observation that you have.
Percentage barrel distortion is at the edge of the fucking pictures, not in the mid. Barrel distortion is not in the middle of the fucking sensor.
Yeah, but those two red lines aren't in the dead center of that photo, are they?
No, those two. No, exactly. Look at the. Listen. All right, before you start gish galloping about your they're not.
I'm
in
not
the
gish
center
galloping.
of
I'm
the
talking
picture.
about this one thing.
Excuse me. Did the middle of my sentence interrupt the start of yours?
It
just
did
then?
actually. That's why I remedied that.
Okay. So now listen, because this had to actually be cropped to be able to make the resolution of the horizon, right? Now, all we did was change it to black and white, and cut the edges off the picture. So you're not actually seeing any barrel distortion anywhere in this actual picture. And those red lines are perfectly parallel across that screen. Why is it that the land curves towards the ocean, yet the ocean curves up towards the land?
Maybe say it like 3 more times that we're not seeing any barrel distortion in the picture. Maybe if you say it a few more times, it'll be true.
But why is the barrel So where's the barrel distortion? Is it to the left of the picture, the right of the picture, or the middle of the picture?
Honestly, with this picture, I'd say the main issue is that it's not even level to begin with.
Do you know where this picture was taken?
Nope.
Right then. So how do you know it's not level?
It just doesn't look that level, to be honest.
Would you like the original?
Oh my god.
Because I'm the one who took the fucking photo.
Yeah, the cliff doesn't look like it's level at all.
Actually, that cliff face, the only deviance is about 2 feet from one end to the other, and that goes for about, I'd say 100 kilometers, maybe longer.
Oh, I was going to say more than that, dude.
Yeah. I'm just like, from what that distance is about 23 kilometers to where you can.
Okay, so are you? So if you were like near the water, why didn't you just take a picture of the water only? Why'd you include the cliff face?
Because.
Why not?
Why would I take a picture of the water?
It like adheres to the law of perspective. So as it gets farther, it converges into the horizon, right? Which is where the water is. Yeah. That's why it's slowly sloping down.
Yeah, but
to add it in is just confounding the observation.
Why is it confounded?
Because people don't realize. Most people won't realize that it's actually just perspective. That's
all right. Time
moving
to bring out the color photo.
It just on the surface level, it just looks like it's not a straight line. So they'll assume that it's fitting whatever claim he's making.
No, about that.
Claims.
I'm still trying to understand what this picture actually is, right? Like I see a small sliver of color photo on the right, and this seems awkward. What is the claim?
Hang on, Dave.
This is a claim of curvature.
Hold your horses.
How so?
That's what he said.
I just want him to explain what this photo is real quick from the ground up, so I can understand it.
Hang on, I'll show you the split images that we did of it. So it goes color, black and white, color, black and white. All right. 2 are compressed, 2 aren't.
And then Vici, you said earlier something about that's not true, but I don't know what you were referring to when you said that's not true.
He said all camera lenses have barrel distortion. And
rectilinear lenses do not.
Yeah, exactly.
Which ones don't?
Rectilinear.
Rectilinear lenses.
Okay, cool.
No, you realize that.
They have different type of distortion, but it's not barrel.
What kind do they have?
Rectilinear distortion. I don't know.
How does it look though?
It keeps all lines parallel. Oh no, straight. But it ends up skewing the edges of the image consequently. It's the same sort of distortion that you get when you're playing a video game. Like if you've ever played a video game with a really widescreen monitor,
there's the
see
original.
How distorted the sides of the screens are. It's the
show me. Yeah, I want him to show me where the barrel distortion is, and that is in the center of the fucking frame.
It's actually really not, though. I'd say.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's
Excuse
not.
me.
I'd say it's like maybe 3/5 of the frame.
Is it really? Is it?
I'd agree that it's slightly above center, based on this.
Yeah, but listen to his pedanticness of this. Oh, it's not center. But how can you call barrel distortion? Look at the size of the fucking image. Do you know how
bro, why would you include the landmass, the cliff face, which is, slowly moving away and converging into the horizon?
Because
why would you include that
in the southern hemisphere?
Doesn't matter though. If you're trying to show curvature in the horizon, take a picture of the horizon, the water that's there. You have a horizon, like enough horizon right there in the water. Why would you include the land?
What do I have as a reference for the water? There's no boats there.
You don't need a reference.
What? So I'll just show you the water.
Yeah, the water should curve according to you.
But I've given you a reference point to show that the water does curve. And
no, you don't need a reference.
You're just flapping. Yes, you do.
Why would you need a reference?
That's how science works.
No, you don't need a land reference inside the actual observation because that just confounds the result.
Hang on. Whoa. What do you mean confounds the results? I'm showing you both land and sea curving.
I know, and the only thing that matters is the horizon, which is the sea.
But then why is there two different horizons? Do they both rise to eye level?
What?
Well, don't horizons rise to eye level? Why is there two?
There aren't two.
Heights? What?
There's only the one horizon. The landmass is covering the horizon on the left side.
No. There's no way for that ocean to meet the top of that cliff. No possible way.
What are you talking about, bro?
That can't happen. That water cannot make the top of that cliff.
I think I see one of the problems here. Percentage side. Do you think that a horizon is only where the sky apparently meets? The sky apparently meets the ocean or the water.
No.
Is that what is okay? So what meaning of horizon are you using?
The regular one.
Which is?
Which is where the sky meets the ground or water.
Okay, well you keep focusing solely on water.
Because there's water here, and that's the true horizon, right?
No.
And then this land.
No.
Yeah, see, if you only have one of the land, then that would be the apparent horizon. But here, because you have both land and water in the frame.
Whoa. Hold on, Dad. Calm down. All right. So, in the definition of horizon is the word apparent. So there is no such thing as a true horizon.
In this image,
all horizons that we see are apparent. It's baked into the definition of it. I'm not trying to play the semantics game, but if you're going to change the definition of it, at least let us know.
I'm not changing the definition. So in this picture, the horizon is over the water. The landmass on the left is obstructing the horizon.
And they're both horizons.
Is it?
No.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Follow the cliff face. Okay.
Yeah, the cliff face is obstructing the horizon.
Excuse me, I wasn't finished.
It is.
At the furthest distance you can see, the cliff face isn't obstructed.
What do you mean? Of course the cliff face isn't obstructed. It's doing the obstructing. It's obstructing the horizon.
What? No, it's not.
Yeah, on the left side, you can't see any of the horizon because it's obstructed.
Oh
by
my
the cliff
god!
face.
You guys talk about perspective all the time. You don't even understand the perspective of this fucking photo.
I do.
Nope.
You don't, because you weren't there.
Doesn't matter.
What?
I see this image in front of me. I don't need to be there.
I mean, look, nothing's that heated yet, Davros. We haven't gotten to like personal, insults.
I don't know. I'm only at about 9.
I know. I'm just saying, dial it down just a little, brother. I mean, we're not at the yelling. I don't think we're at the yell. I don't think we're at the justified yelling spot yet.
I'm just trying to understand what this picture is trying to depict. I really want. Don't test me to just walk through this slowly with me.
Okay.
So I can understand.
Dan Fessler, I'll explain it to you. This is the Great Australian Bight. This is having just gone across the border into Western Australia, and there's a little lookout, and it is basically the best observation point you can get to look along these cliff faces, which are about 20 meters or 35 to 40 feet above the water. Now, actually closer to 60, but it's the thing is that point out there is at the same height as I am.
That point, what point?
So the furthest point of land you can see in that photo is at the same height as I am.
Okay.
But
that demonstrates that it's below eye level.
But here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. Look at the red lines on the multiple picture, and you'll see the land curves towards the ocean, right? and this is a relatively flat area, which I know they like that word, relatively flat area on the Western Australian plains in the Nullarbor with no fucking trees. But if you actually take a close look, the ocean curves up to the cliff curves down to the ocean. Why does that happen?
The ocean curves up to the cliff. So you're saying like there's an arc formed
yes,
left to right, like the ocean on the.
But they both form the same arc.
So I do these kinds of measurements all the time. This is why I'm asking you about this, because I think that this is far too low of altitude to see any meaningful curvature whatsoever.
Well, actually,
and I don't see when I'm looking at this image. I have it open up in Photoshop, and I'm
squeeze it, and look at it. You'll see it.
That's what she said.
What I'm saying is that there's not enough detail on this image for me to make any sort of decisive claim about it, because the haze right in the center of frame obscures where the curve would be. Right, so like there is like the sharp line on the right side of the screen, and I could maybe interpret that as a curve, or I could interpret that as a straight line, but it's not conclusive to me. And
but it's not a straight line.
Face on the left side is that I can't continue. Like if I had more information, if it was just ocean going across the image, I'd be able to get a better idea of what that curve is.
All right. Next time I make the 2,700 kilometer journey to Perth, I'll make sure it's fucking overcast so I get a better picture.
Okay, but I'm almost done here. So I'm going to post a link to what curvature you should see at that altitude. This is a visualizer that I coded. So you said 60 feet, right? So that's at 60 feet. It's a link. It's not an image.
Mm-hmm.
And it's virtually none.
But you could say virtually none all you like. The evidence is there.
Mathematically, you should not see that like any curvature.
But the evidence is there. But you can see that Lake Pontchartrain.
I have a question for you.
Hang on, percentage. I'm talking to Dan. Lake Pontchartrain is shorter than this distance, and you can see curvature there.
But
so hello,
is a completely different dimension that they're showing. They're showing the depth curvature. You're talking about left to right curvature.
Same thing.
Yeah, there's no left to right curvature.
No,
that's not right.
Well, then why is it curving left to right in the picture?
What I'm telling you is that I know that you're saying that you see it curving, but I don't see it
curving
to me. Like I'm trying.
What aren't you seeing?
Don't test me. I got a question for you. So is it possible for mountains to obstruct the horizon?
What does that have to do with this picture?
Just go ahead and what's the word?
Well, technically, the horizon.
Indulge me. That's what it is.
Okay. Hang on. The horizon, when you're talking about land, is anywhere the sky meets mountains, trees, buildings, anything.
Really?
Yep.
So if there's a mountain there, the outline of the mountain, the silhouette of the mountain, is the horizon.
Well, not the silhouette, the actual mountain itself. You can't see beyond it, can you? So that's your horizon. That's where that's the only reference point.
So the horizon can't be obstructed.
Go.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So where are you trying to go with? Like, if you've got a bunch of buildings in the way,
why are you so worried about the questions?
I'm not worried. It's just got no relevance to this picture.
I think it has a lot of relevance.
What? Where's the mountains?
You're saying that
the
horizon can't be obstructed. That mountains don't obstruct the horizon.
Just make your case, man.
I am making my case.
What? No, I mean saying that we agree with you is not making your case. Just make.
Why is we? I'm talking to him, not you.
Oh, I'm not listening.
Here's the thing, percentage. So you subscribe to where the sky meets the land, correct?
Yeah, of course. Where the sky meets
so
the land
if it meets
in that straight line, though, it can be obstructed.
No, where does it say about a straight fucking line?
The horizon can be obstructed. Whether you like it or not, the horizon can be obstructed. It's that straight line.
I can hold my hand up
and
obstruct the horization. I mean, like, I don't get where this is going.
Yeah, I'd like to see this happen at the fucking Andes Mountains. How are you going to pick where the horizon's supposed to be across that huge range of mountains? The horizon is the next peak you see, or the next valley that goes in between two mountains.
No,
that's your horizon. That's
not always,
your distances.
No. Usually mountains aren't. If they're big enough, they're not going to be converged into the horizon. They're usually going to be on the horizon or obstructing the horizon.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
It makes perfect sense. I think you need to travel.
And I mean, not only
you
that,
don't know
not
that
only that, but I mean the fact that mountains disappear from the bottom up. You know, I mean, if we're going to talk land observations, let's talk about that one. Mountains disappear, or they, as you approach them, they appear more. You know, to show more of the bottom, and as you leave, more of the bottom disappears. As you back off, more of the bottom disappears. So.
Yeah, sure. We can move on to that.
What is the?
But
I mean, it's
before
not
that,
moving on. I mean, it's we're talking about the horizon here.
Yeah. Before that, I just want to tell. Don't test me.
The bottoms of mountains. So
yeah, okay.
You know, instead
before
of
that, I just want to tell.
lead
Don't
you
test
down
me
a
that.
path by asking a bunch of trick questions. You know, how about we
It's not
just
a trick
talk
question.
about?
No.
Yes,
Man.
they are. I mean, I know your rhetorical style.
Can you make your point and then stop talking so other people?
I don't know because you keep interrupting me every time I try.
All right, so no, go ahead, make your point. Let's not interrupt him.
Sure.
Let's see what he has to say.
The point is that mountains disappear from the bottom up. Okay, that's my point.
Okay, so don't test me. In terms of your photo, the landmass there, it's basically like a very flat mountain. Imagine it as a very flat mountain that's obstructing the horizon. That's what it is.
That's actually the continental shelf of Australia.
Yeah, okay. It's obstructing the horizon. And you can tell that by the reference line of the water, because that's where the horizon is.
And?
That's what I'm telling you. That left section of your photo is not horizon. So it's a bad piece of evidence.
What?
It's flat
ground. How it's not rising up. How is it obstructing the horizon?
Ground that's still high and obstructing the horizon.
He's above it. He's at the same level of it. It's like saying the flat your floor can.
If it was the horizon, it would be in line with the water. It's not.
Can your floor obstruct your ceiling?
Can your floor obstruct your ceiling?
Yes. Can your floor obstruct your ceiling?
Listen, if you guys can't see this, it's plain as day. If you can't see this in the image, I feel bad for you, son.
Okay,
to the question percentage.
Man.
If that's not the horizon where the land is, how far beyond where the land is that you see, where the horizon would start then? If that's on the continental bite of Australia, over on the east coast where I am? Is that where the horizon is going to start from there?
The horizon's just behind it. It would be the same distance as the water, the horizon where the water is.
Hang on. Whoa. Well, wait. I'll handle this. Did you not hear at the start of my fucking statement, I am at the same level as the other end of that fucking photo?
That doesn't matter.
That horizon is horizon. That is the apparent horizon. There is no other thing to make it another horizon. There is nothing to obstruct it. Or if it is, it's the curvature of the fucking earth.
The horizon is apparent by nature. The only horizon there in that photo is where the sky meets the water. Okay?
No,
on the left, it's obstructing the horizon. There is no horizon on the left. It's being hidden.
That's horizon, man.
No, the horizon is obstructed on the left side.
All right, so if we removed all the water from that picture and Davros went over to the left more and just got that, just that cliff, are you saying that there would be no horizon in that picture?
The horizon would be obstructed.
Why?
What?
Because you would have no reference point to know where the horizon is. You would think it's a horizon, and you'd be more inclined to believe it because you don't have the water to show you, no, you're a fool, that it's not actually the horizon. But truly, the horizon would be obstructed by that flat mountainous land.
I mean, again, that is saying that the floor can obstruct your ceiling.
Percentage.
Listen, just where the sky meets the ground isn't always where the horizon is.
Percentage.
If you have a hill and the sky meets the hill, it's not where the horizon is.
Yeah, what part of apparent is hard for you to ingest?
I'm sorry if you don't understand how the horizon works.
I think you guys are making a mistake here, because think about a situation where the mountain occupies the left half of the image, and then the right half is a normal horizon that cuts into the middle of the mountain. Where would you say your horizon line is then? You wouldn't say that it goes up and follows the contour of the mountain. You'd say it goes behind the mountain.
And in that example, I would agree with you, Scott, because I did admit that you can't obscure the horizon. The thing is that's Davros's floor. That is at his level or below. So how can it obstruct anything?
So I agree that if it's always below his view, then it shouldn't obstruct the horizon. I don't know.
Dan, why are there pixelations in the second line? Why does it look like it's dipping?
So here's the thing is, what I was trying to convey earlier is that a straight line seems to fit that horizon just fine. And that shouldn't be surprising because the amount of curvature that you should see at that elevation is virtually non-existent, right? So what I think is...
Question, are you a flatty?
No, I'm a glober.
No,
and
he's not flatty.
I mean,
so I've got a question.
Okay, wait. Are we talking about left to right curvature, or are we talking about
left to right curvature?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know we were talking about left to right curvature.
Hang on. My question is, your secondary line at the top there. Why are there pixel dips in it?
It's literally a straight line. There's anti-aliasing going on. That's the resolution of the line. I use the line tool to draw a straight line.
Can I ask a question? A general question.
You just did. Next. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I want to finish this conversation.
So, hold on. If the horizon, if you're standing in one spot, and this is flat or globe, either case, if you're standing in one spot and the horizon, let's say it was like the perfect non-terrain, you're on this ball or you're on a flat plane, whatever. If the horizon, if your limit of view or the curvature of the horizon, whatever perspective you want to take on it, if it's 3 miles away from you, this is arbitrary number, in any given direction, if you hold out your arm so that your fingertip points at the horizon and you turn 360 degrees and that horizon is the same distance no matter where you face, at what point do you think your arm is going to drop to follow a curve? And this is on either model.
Never.
And the point I'm making is that a lateral curve can be discerned depending on how high you get, but it's almost an obtuse thought that your eyes are so good that if you can see arbitrary number here, 10 miles from left to right in an image, that your eye is so good that you're going to make out a couple inches of curve. That's
I didn't make that assertion.
I'm not saying you are. Hold on. That was a general statement. It wasn't directed at anyone specifically. I'm saying that what I'm saying applies globe or flat. Like the idea that you're going to see a lateral curve from level, like down below, without going up any, is an absurdity for either side to make.
But this actually you can see
right. You can see curve in there because you are elevated. You are not at the same level as water, and that's why you can see it. So what I'm saying is things like when people take a picture from the beach and they're like at sea level, they're not up on a high terrain, but then they expect that on this enormous landmass, again, globe or flat, whatever you want to go with, you're only a couple feet, couple inches above, you're not going to see things. You got to get way up there. And if you have any concept of how big that landmass is, then you can kind of get a grasp of like, man, if I really wanted to see something, I got to get really fucking high. All right.
Yep. I think
that's all I wanted to say. And I also want to like post my own pictures that I took of an observation, but I'll wait my turn on that.
No, you can post them.
Cool.
Sure. Okay. This is from 2016. I spent some time in Michigan, and I have an app that tells you sunrise, sunset times, and at what angle and all that. So it's going to be a total of 8
someone
pictures.
who lived in Michigan.
It was my ex-wife.
Right.
It was my in-laws there. I don't want to go back there, but I'm going to share a total of 8 images, and in sequence, I'll explain them. So this is that day. It's asking for details there. That day, azimuth, I was expecting the sunrise, and so that yellow line is where the sun is supposed to rise. Okay. Next image, I'm gonna have to zoom in and see it. Is after it loads. This one's showing the elevation of the blue marker on the top right in meters. All right, so that's somewhere like what 1,600 feet, something like that. All right. The next image ought to show the elevation of where that yellow marker is on the left-hand side. Let me zoom in. I might have pulled up the wrong images.
Oh, look, you used metric. Nice. I like that.
I go back and forth. And then this next image. So really what I'm establishing is I am indeed looking where I say I'm looking, and you can get the information of each. And in this image, after it loads, I don't know if it's my internet or Discord that's being slow right now.
It's Discord.
All right. There you can see 184 meters is where that spot is. That's where I took the photograph from. So it's significantly
330 meter difference between elevations.
So it's significantly lower than the terrain that is, next image is coming, I think. There it goes. So where I'm taking the photo, if you look at the elevation of that, and it goes right to that peak, all right, and that's at that same azimuth as the sunrise. So you can expect that if there is a higher terrain on the horizon and the sun's coming up and rising, you should at least see it silhouetted, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yep, that's fair.
So the following images show that you do not see that silhouetting. Mind you, when people talk about the Chicago skyline, you can see those, and those buildings are significantly lower than these mountains. There are no mountains visible.
That's very slickly done, sir. That's like, you know, a lot of people take a lot of observations, but I don't think I've seen anybody. A couple of just thoughts you had to, you know, to line up with the azimuth to find something that was a relative height difference like that. That's smart. That really works.
I like to cover my bases.
But here's a question. Where's the other observation point in that image?
That's the dot to the west. The yellow dot where I took the picture from was on those rocks. And I purposely show you the terrain view so that you can see. Actually, I may need to upload that one. That little small island to the right of the photographs is to the right of that azimuth. And I didn't upload those. Give me a second, and I'll pull them up so no one calls bullshit on me.
No, I'm not calling bullshit. So is that at the
no? It's a fair question.
Yeah, is that at the azimuth of where it was going to come up?
Yep,
the sun.
Yeah, right there where that peak was. So.
Yeah, but you can't see the peak because there's something blocking it. Correct.
We call that the horizon.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That was more directed at percentage sign.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what's
it's
that?
sort of like hiding something, isn't it?
Yeah, the horizon's behind that piece of land.
That piece of land? Did you not look at the azimuth? That's the reason why I posted it.
No.
You should look at all the pictures to see the...
What am I looking for?
So in the first image,
did you see him go through all 6 pictures? Sorry, go ahead.
I was doing something.
Okay.
There is definitely one more image I need to upload so that you can actually see where that little terrain is in reference to that azimuth line. So just give me a second. I did forget that. Good catch, guys. It's somewhere on my tablet, so you guys can keep talking.
So you lined up the park with where the sun's coming from?
He had an observation point that was exactly on line with the azimuth for the sunrise. And the point that he was looking at had about 300 meters higher elevation than when he was standing on. So in a flat Earth, there should be some sort of silhouetting happening as the sun rises up behind this object that's much higher than him. And yet, when the sun rises, there's nothing silhouetted.
So the landmass on the right is supposed to be silhouetted?
No,
I'm looking for the image. I'll show you where that landmass to the right is like not even a full 1.5 miles or 2 away.
Yeah.
Whereas the distance to the peak that we're supposed to see is in one of those images. I think it was over like I don't want to make up a number. It was over 100.
It wasn't it 223 kilometers from point to point. Right, and the far point was 300 and I think it was 32 meters above his position. Yet he couldn't see it when the sun rose.
No, I understand it, but why would you expect to see land being silhouetted by the sun when you can't see the land?
Because it's higher elevation than the horizon is supposed to be. On a flat Earth, the horizon would be below that terrain, obviously, or at least the horizon that you can see. Now it's backlit by a point of light, so where you can actually see where the horizon is. So if it's there, you should see the terrain. If it's flat,
yeah, that's if you can see the terrain, you'd see that it was backlit, but you can't even see the terrain.
Right, that's because it's lower than the horizon,
or because of the other three limitations of sight.
Okay, so again, and this is why I brought the Chicago
actually verifiable limitations of sight.
Hold on. So the Chicago skyline that people see from the opposite coast is much, much, much shorter than that terrain. So how can we see that with atmospheric conditions?
We don't
cannot
all the
see
time either.
higher terrain.
You see that in really good conditions.
We do see it. It's not too small to see, though. So clearly, this cliff is not too small to see.
Apparently, it is because I don't see it.
Well, so you're saying the Chicago skyline being smaller is easier to see than the mountain?
Or maybe the atmospheric conditions on this particular day that you did it. Did you do multiple days, or
it should even atmospheric conditions can't make you see through something, right? Because remember, if it's there, it's blocking the sun. So you wouldn't be able to see. Atmospheric conditions wouldn't make it so you could see through it to the sun and get a perfect sun circular. No, you'd still see something blocking out.
No, because you're not actually seeing the land, and then the sun will first go and silhouette the land, which you're not seeing, and then continue to come closer and rise above the horizon, and then at that point you see the sun.
You just said the sun would silhouette the land, yet where's the silhouette?
Because you can't see the land, so you can't see that.
But you should be able to see the land. It's big enough and it's close enough.
So let me ask you this.
Maybe his resolving power wasn't good enough. Maybe he didn't have enough observer height. Maybe there's too much distortion in the atmosphere.
Versus the land.
Well, distortion in the atmosphere can't do it. We talked about this because it can't make you see through something. So it can't be distortion in the atmosphere.
There could be opacity in the atmosphere that's not letting the light attenuate or travel as much as it will.
Now he's the bloody meteorologist.
Those are the three limitations of sight. Curvature has never been proven to be a limitation of sight.
But you can't see through. Yes, it has.
Right. Our lack of X-ray vision is a limitation of sight.
Yes. So you can't. No matter how much opacity is in the air, it's never going to let you see through something. So you can't. That as one of the three reasons doesn't have any relevance here.
Scott, there's no seeing through it. I don't know why you keep on saying that. There's no seeing through it.
Look, if it's big enough to see, and it would normally be blocking the sun, opacity isn't going to solve that. This is going to make it not block the sun anymore. It's still going to be blocking the sun. The light is not going to be getting through it, no matter how opaque the air is between you and it.
That's the thing. You can't see it, not because it's not big enough or something like that. It's because it's your eyesight is limited.
Okay, but so then that's a different argument. So you can't. The point I'm making is you got to drop the argument about opacity.
No, it's
in the air.
It could definitely be opacity.
That's not helping you.
Why? That's atmospheric conditions.
No, because
if that's atmospheric conditions don't play a role.
If that's the only reason, then you can't see through the object. If otherwise you would see it silhouetted, then opacity can't make it so that it's not silhouetting the sun anymore. How is opacity going to cause you to see through the object?
You don't see through it. Again, your sight isn't reaching it.
If opacity is the only... okay, that's a different argument. Do you understand?
Hold on.
No, it's not a different argument.
Let me
opacity, which causes you to see...
Either it silhouettes the sun or it doesn't. And if opacity then makes it so you can't see it, well, you're not going to be able to see the sun through it because of the opacity.
Again, the sun would be higher over the horizon after silhouette. You just don't see the silhouette. I don't know why you're not getting this.
You just said something that makes me. I need to see what you actually think. Is there a limit to how far out your eyes can see, or what it takes for light to reach you?
Both. They're the same thing.
Both. Are they?
Yeah.
So, how far can your eyes see in general?
It depends on your resolving power. It depends on your observer height, and depends on the opacity in the atmosphere.
So if a source of light is behind a deer on the road, would you suggest that maybe that source of light being headlights is something that's about to hit that deer because it's on the other side of that deer?
Can you see the deer?
Well, yeah, the headlights are behind it, so it's being silhouetted.
But in this thing, we can't see the deer.
So you're telling me that a car can cast headlights from far away, and you would maybe not even see it because it's nighttime, and there's a limitation to your nocturnal vision.
So that's a different thing altogether.
No. If something is casting light from behind an object, will you see the object or not?
How far is the car? If it's too far, the light might hit the deer, but not travel far enough to reach your eye.
If something is casting light and it can reach your eyes, right?
Okay.
If something is in front of that light, will you see that object silhouetted?
You'll see a silhouette.
Okay.
Depending on how strong the light is and how much residual light there is in the atmosphere or in the environment.
So you're saying that it's possible you're saying that it's possible for the light to be behind an object and you not see that object, but you will see the light.
No, see, again, you would, at that point where it's silhouetting, you can't see it, right? In this image, you can't see it when it's being silhouetted, right? But the sun continues to rise. And at that point, it'll continue to get higher above the horizon. And then you'll be able to see it when it's done silhouetting whatever was being silhouetted that you couldn't see.
So you just said you will not see it when it's silhouetted, but you will see it when it's done being silhouetted. Do you understand the extreme error you just said?
No, there's no error.
The
sun continues to rise.
You don't understand it.
If you want to say that, you can just keep on saying that and add harm. But if you have no point, then
I'm still trying to wrap my head around your statement that if a light source is behind something and you can see that light source, that
you couldn't see the light source while it was silhouetting. You couldn't see what was being silhouetted.
At what time? At what point was the sun turned off? Like, the reason I took the picture when I did is because you can literally only see the top edge of the sun. All right,
and your sight wasn't good enough to see the silhouette.
The angular size of the sun is what?
Dude. Again, your sight wasn't good enough to see the landmass being silhouetted.
Size of the sun?
It should have been.
Irrelevant.
It's very relevant because I already did the calculations. So the angular size of the sun is about half a degree. I think it's 0.54 or something like that. At that distance, those mountains are silhouetted at 0.2. I think it was 287 degrees. All right. So half of the fucking sun's diameter in angular size, and you're saying I can see barely 0.1 degree of the sun at that point, but I can't see the silhouetted greater than that.
You can't see the silhouetted part because it was too far, or you were too far, or you didn't have resolving power. The point is your eyesight was limited. You could not see that.
He just gave you the calculation for that, though, and the calculation says otherwise.
No, there's no calculation for it.
Are you telling me you can't determine the angular size of an object knowing its height and its distance?
We know how angular size changes with distance.
How does it not apply to this?
Because
geometry just doesn't quit.
How the angular size changes.
Bro, your eyesight was limited. You could not see the landmass.
You can't just keep saying that when he's giving you exactly what you should.
You need to change one of three things. You need to either change your lens, increase the resolving power.
Not see that,
Scott. I know, like, for some reason you're triggered, but
he just told you, dude. You're ignoring what he just said. He gave you a calculation. The angular size is half that of the sun.
It doesn't matter.
Tells you that you should be able to see it.
Doesn't matter what the angular size is if you can't actually see it.
How are you not seeing it if the angular size is big enough? How are you not seeing it?
Because his resolving power wasn't good enough. So the angular size
is taken care of. The resolving power relates to the angular size.
The angular size of it was like 0 at that point, bro. It didn't have a size because it wasn't
he just told you what it was.
Visible.
He just told you what it was. He gave you the answer for that.
0?
Angular size applies to what's visible, right? It wasn't visible.
Yeah, it
was under the minimum
resolvable. Declare solid landmass invisible.
He just gave you the number and you're ignoring it.
It was below the minimum resolvable.
No, it wasn't.
So I can see 0.287 degrees of
0.287.
I cannot see 0.287 degrees of the mountains, but I can see less than 0.1 degrees of the sun.
Because the sun went over the mountain.
is the angular size. 0.287 is the angular size you're dealing with.
Where's the rest of the sun in that image?
The sun was going above the horizon and it was elevated.
No.
The mountains stayed where they were.
It's funny you say that when you can only see the top of the sun.
After you resolve the sun.
0.287. How can you not resolve?
It wasn't 0.287.
How can you not resolve it?
It doesn't have.
We just told you we calculated it.
Well, he's wrong. You can't have an angular size of 0.287 if you can't actually see it.
How would you do that, Matt? Tell me how would you do that, Matt?
The reason you can't see it is because it's hidden by the horizon.
Yeah.
Hippity, I'm sorry, percent.
It's
tell me how you would determine
into the horizon.
Tell me how you would determine the angular
size. Vanishing point.
The Earth. I hate to break it to you. It's curvature of the Earth that's hiding it. Now we know how angular size. Know the distance, so we know what size it should be. He's giving you that number. That number is well above the resolving power of the eye. So why are you not seeing it?
You're not seeing it because it's in the vanishing point of the horizon, and as such, it doesn't have an angular size.
When he's already done the math for you,
I don't care if he did the math. His math is wrong.
Repeating yourself.
Input equals output. If it's garbage input, it's garbage output. If it's
so
not
tell me how to do the math. How would I do that?
If it's in the vanishing point of the horizon, then it doesn't have an angular size.
It's clearly too big for that.
You're challenging my math. Tell me how to do the math.
Dude, there's no math for it. You can't see it. It's in the horizon.
Well, hold on. You just told me that I did the math wrong, and now you're telling me that there's no math?
Yeah, you're relying on math for something that you can't math it. You can't math it out. I'm sorry.
You cannot math. You cannot math.
Listen to you. You're going to pretend to be dishonest and genuine. Listen to you now. Listen to you scramble. Listen to the lies that you say right now. Jesus Christ.
Yo, you could add and poison the well as much as you want.
You're literally wasting time now at this 1%.
But you guys are answering hard right now.
That is
the horizon. It's in the vanishing point of the horizon, and you're trying to append
He gave you the math. You're denying the math.
Size to it.
You're just denying it at this point.
I'm not.
You can deny it if you want.
You want to
say that's how you sleep at night? Go ahead.
Straight up wrong. It's in the freaking vanishing point.
Show them how the math is wrong. Show them.
Hold on. Percentage, are you claiming that there's no way to calculate when something can no longer be seen? At what distance something of a known size can no longer be seen? Ever?
That's not what I'm claiming at all.
Because that's the math he's using. So what are you claiming?
I'm claiming that because you can't see it, it's in the vanishing point of the horizon, it does not have an appreciable angular size.
Right, but can you determine
or whatever angular size he mentioned?
Can you determine when something of a known size should vanish from your vision?
It depends on the variables.
I told you the variables with a known size and distance.
Yeah. What about the refraction? The index of refraction.
Sure.
What about
let's assume assuming no refraction. Can you with math determine how far away something needs to be with a known size?
If it's a vacuum, and if you have what type of lens do you have?
Any lens, really, like anything like that where the resolving power is greater than the angular. I mean, actually, that's one of the variables, right? You need to know the resolving power of the lens.
You would also need to know the observer height.
No, observer height is not necessary on this one.
How is it not necessary?
Right, hold on. You bring up. I actually have observer height in that, by the way. But you bring up refraction, and what we see with refraction is that the more refraction there is, the more becomes revealed. Right?
It depends on the type of refraction. There's inferior mirage and superior mirage.
Great. But when we're talking about what we're talking about, like, let's be honest here and not throw
let's be honest. Superior mirage is the one that curves it down so you could see more. Inferior mirage doesn't. So what's your point?
Jesus Christ.
That's not true.
That is true.
What does light do when it goes through different densities?
Bro, I don't know
hold on. In the most basic form, in the most basic fundamental form, what does light do when it goes through a different density in a medium? Does it lean or curve towards the higher density or the lower density? It's a simple question. It refracts. Okay, refraction means it bends aware. So does it go towards the higher density or the lower density? Does it go to the higher density or the lower density?
It depends, man.
It depends on what? No, it doesn't. It literally will always lean towards the higher density. That's how refraction fucking works. And as it turns out, when you go up in altitude, you only get lower densities. So the higher density is always lower.
And how does diffraction work?
So when we're talking about looking over the horizon, when light's going over the horizon, it's going down and being visible further away because it's curving around because of that fact that it goes towards the lower density.
Okay, again, not always. And number two, this is
not always. Not always. So you're making another.
Yeah, this is a red herring to detract from your really dumb claim that this thing that was in the vanishing point of the horizon has an angular size of
the vanishing point of the horizon.
0.4 or whatever you said.
Stop presupposing your conclusion, dude. Come on.
The vanishing point of the horizon is where because of perspective, you can't see anymore because the sky converged, like the sky converged into this vanishing point.
How do you calculate perspective?
Bottom first, and the ground converged top up.
How do you calculate perspective?
How do you calculate perspective?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So why are you using something you don't know how to do?
I don't need to know how to calculate it.
You should probably learn about things when you
do I need to know how to calculate it to know what it is?
Yes.
No, not at all. You're the one that clearly doesn't know how perspective works, bro.
Oh, okay. Because we just told you exactly how to calculate it. You have no idea how.
You just made the claim that you cannot make a calculation.
Let me ask you a question. What is the vanishing point?
The vanishing point is an artificial thing that it says when some things converge because of where you are, they look smaller and smaller. That's all it is. It's not where something literally vanishes.
To the point where
you can't resolve it.
Yeah, it doesn't actually vanish, but you can't resolve it. You can't discern between two individual source points. Right, because there's coinciding of the waves.
All right, back to the point.
So
again, I'm real talking. Quick. So if you can resolve the horizon at 3 to 4 miles away, or 10 miles if you get up in a little bit of altitude, if you can resolve that, but that's all you can resolve is 10 miles away, how can you resolve any celestial body that's at all further than that, let alone an airplane that's 30,000 feet in the air, but good and damn well further than 10 miles?
It's different.
How's that different?
It's different.
How do you suddenly resolve differently when you're looking at an airplane versus the horizon?
Because first off, the airplanes are on top of you, like they're like up, right? And perspective.
I live in Lacey, Washington. Seattle.
As it gets farther,
Seattle is an hour and 5 minute drive away. The Seattle Tacoma Airport, SeaTac as they call it. I can see airplanes coming in on approach from the north side. I live south of Seattle, by the way. From the north side of Seattle, I can see them on approach from JBLM, Fort Lewis, on the airfield. Explain
What's your point?
That I can see something a lot fucking further than you say I should be able to see it based on the horizon.
Do those planes converge like as they get farther? Do they look like they're getting lower in the sky?
Yeah.
Okay,
they're landing.
Cool.
They kind of do that when they land.
No, not when they're landing. I mean, when they're just going, or you don't see them when they're just traveling farther away.
Oh yeah, when they're traveling farther away, sure.
Okay, cool.
That's miles and miles and miles away. So you're telling me that I can see an airplane in the sky that's miles and miles and miles away, but I can only see the dirt in front of me or the water if you're at the beach 3 to 4 miles away.
I don't know what you can see, bro. All I know is that in the image that you posted, the landmass that you claim is there and has an angular size of 0.3 or whatever you said it was,
the literal
wasn't
map
there.
Claims it's there.
It's in the vanishing point. You couldn't discern the individual source points, bro. I'm sorry to say it.
Wait,
you can't tell that there's any silhouetting. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
One more time. If you know all the variables, do you believe that you can calculate the moment something of a known size should disappear? At what distance something of a known size?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, so
I don't see why not.
That's great. So which variable did he not account for? Because he did the math, and you should be able to see it at that distance. And the fact that you don't is a problem. It either means that the Earth is curved and it's obstructing it, or he miscalculated a variable.
Yeah.
So which variable did he miscalculate?
I don't know, but he definitely miscalculated. When he claims that it's an angular size of 0.3 and you can't actually see it, then it's not an angular size of 0.3. The angular size is what you see.
Instead of saying what he miscalculated or having any inkling whatsoever of what he miscalculated, you're just saying just by virtue of him not seeing it, it must be wrong.
Well, Hellfire, are you saying that the angular size should be that, or that's what the angular size is?
Like that's what it is, unless you want to change how geometry
Incorrect,
works.
bro. Man, you obviously don't know how angular size works. If it's not there, then there is no angular size.
You can't even tell me how to calculate it, and you're gonna tell me I don't know how it works.
Dude.
No, if you were gonna say the angular size,
hold on.
At this
What
distance, the angular
variables do
size
you
should
need
be
to
this.
determine angular size?
Just
answer that.
Hellfire, real quick. So if you're saying that at this distance, with these conditions, this observer height, this lens, the angular size should be this, but we don't see that. And then I could work with that. But you're saying that the angular size is this when it's not visible at all. When angular size means that you can actually see it.
Yes.
That's the amount of your field of view that that is taken up.
It tells you how big it should be.
Percentage. What do I need to know?
So it tells you that it's hidden by the horizon.
Veach, I asked him straight up, is that what it should be or what it is? He said that's what it is. So
that's what it is. It's hidden by the horizon, so you can't see something that's obstructed.
Percentage.
No, angular size percentage. The horizon, bro.
What do I need to know to determine what? Wow. What do I need to know to determine the angular size of an object?
You can't say that it has an angular size of something and then say it's in the horizon. The angular size means that it's visible, and that's how much of the
angular size just means how big something looks to you.
Exactly
based on its size and
instead of you guessing and
angular size, bro.
Why don't we just talk about how you calculate it? Because this is simple to calculate.
The minimum.
So why don't we just talk about how to calculate it, okay? It really only requires two variables. Go ahead.
Correct. So you got your distance. This is like the very basics of trigonometry, bro. All right, so you got a triangle, right? You got a right triangle, boop, right? You got a distance to it, and you got the size of an object. Based on those two lengths, you've got an opposite and you've got an adjacent. Do you remember our little phrase when we were in grade school called SOHCAHTOA?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I have an opposite and I have an adjacent. What do I use? Tangent, cosine, or sine?
Dude, just get on with it.
I mean, you're the one that said I calculated wrong. I'd imagine you have some kind of knowledge about this.
Dude, well, then what do you use?
It might even be like an issue from before the calculation. The fact that you think you can see like you have something with an angular size of X when you can't even see it, means that you done fucked up.
Because you assume.
Are you saying that the elevation maps are wrong? Is that your?
No, I'm saying you're wrong, straight up.
So well, I didn't measure the fucking mountain. I took that elevation from geological data.
Well, you screwed up somewhere, bro.
Are you saying? Well, I must have, based on your incredulity. But I'd like for you to tell me
incredulity.
Where did I get that elevation from?
Can you define angular size?
Where would you get that elevation
Please define angular size.
I want to walk through that with you real quick because I think there's just a fundamental misunderstanding. You're talking past each other because you have different ideas of what angular size even means. So imagine I'm standing, some distance away from you, 30 feet or something like that, and I'm holding a baseball and I'm holding a piece of paper, and you can measure the angular size of those two objects. Now, let's say
literally,
I put the baseball,
so that I'll let you explain, but so that he knows I'm not picking back off of you. Angular size is just how many degrees of your field of view an object takes up. That's it.
Right. But it's even more than that. Like,
I'm just letting him know.
If you move the baseball behind the piece of paper, does it still have an angular size percentage?
Of course.
Okay, so it's obstructed, yet it still has an angular size that you just can't see.
Of course.
Okay.
Now, let's say you move that piece of paper back.
You keep on saying that you it can't have angular size unless you see it.
No, I mean, like, unless you can resolve it. If it's just being obstructed, that's a different argument altogether. But if you move it back all the way to where it's in the converging, so go ahead, man.
So why is that not a valid option in your mind, that the terrain is obstructing it? Why are you saying that it must be wrong instead of saying it could be that it's obstructing it?
We're talking about the terrain. How could the terrain be blocking the terrain?
That's how curves work. That's how a ball works.
No, we're talking about the terrain, and without presupposing any curvature, he's saying that angular size is X amount. You can't say the angular size is X amount because the angular size is like the apparent size, right? The angular and
you don't need to account for curvature or anything for that. It's like it's this far, it's this big, it should take up this much in my field of view. So there's no presupposition of curve.
There is though, because
no. The conclusion is, well, something's blocking it, and based on those pictures, it's the water or the horizon.
No, bro, it's in the vanishing point. Like if I had this piece of paper, right? I moved the bat, and I have this piece of paper.
How far is a vanishing point?
Hold on, let me finish. I moved the bat, and you could see the piece of paper. And I kept on moving it back to the point where you couldn't even discern between the individual wavelengths or whatever of the source points, right? You couldn't discern at all. It went into the vanishing point of the horizon. At that point, the angular size is going to get smaller and smaller to the point where it gets below like the 0.02 degree or whatever it is, and you're not going to be able to see it. The angular size is going to be negligible. It's going to be like almost zero.
But we already
so you can't tell me the angular size is X, but you can't see it because it's in the vanishing point of the horizon. That doesn't make sense.
Okay, what is the vanishing point to you,
dude? You already asked me this.
How far is it? No, like how far is it?
It depends.
It depends
it's where the horizon is, bro.
Okay, so when I'm driving on the east side of Colorado away from Denver, and I can still see the tops of the Rocky Mountains while I'm heading towards Kansas in my rearview mirror, where did the base of the mountains go? And that's well over 200 miles, so why can I see that? But the actual horizon that's cutting off the bottoms of those mountains is still fucking 3-4 miles, whatever it is.
So wait, are we like absconding your first like this observation and like agreeing that you're way off base by saying that the angular size is 0.4, 0.3 or whatever you said it was, but you still, for some reason, it's not apparent at all? The apparent size is this, but it's not apparent?
Rephrase the question, because I didn't jump to my point at all. I'm making another example. I'm asking you, here's what I'm asking you. You're saying something went beyond this.
No, rephrase the question real quick.
Hold on.
Okay?
Okay, go ahead.
So angular size, another word for it is apparent size. You're saying the apparent size is what was the value?
0.287.
0.287 degrees, right?
Correct.
And because like you're saying that's the apparent size, and yet it's not apparent at all because it's in the vanishing point of the horizon. Why? We can't actually resolve things that are below 0.02 degrees with the human eye. I don't know what you used, what type of lens you used. Probably not the human eye, because obviously you took a photo. But regardless, you can't say the apparent size of this is that many degrees when it's in the vanishing point of the horizon, because obviously it's below that minimum resolvable angle, the minimum angular resolution for that lens.
So the vanishing point for the human eye is a fixed range. Is that what you're saying?
Did you get any of what I just said right now, or I'm just like,
Well, you said the vanishing point of the horizon. So what range or what distance is that vanishing point for the human eye?
It depends. Again, it depends on your observer height. Depends on the atmosphere.
Okay.
But my point is, though, you're claiming something has an apparent size and yet is not apparent. It's a complete contradiction. And you're not. I don't get why you're not realizing.
So there's a reason why I picked the Midwest when I went on to another example of something you can see. But at this point, I was traveling, so I didn't think to pause and take pictures because I never thought I'd have this conversation. Because wow. So
I mean, be flabbergasted as much as you want, but like if it was obstruction, like
the horizon behind me, when I'm driving away into Kansas while I'm still in Colorado, several hundred miles away from the Rockies. The horizon that I can't see cities and towns and all that over is still the same 3 to 4 miles, whatever this arbitrary vanishing point is. However, I can still see peaks of those mountains that are several hundred miles away. So you're going to have a hard time like reconciling that. Okay, saying that you can't see beyond a certain point, the horizon, but somehow, even something that doesn't emit its own light, like fucking mountain peaks that are hundreds of miles away, I can still see.
Do you have
and
any
for some reason can't see their base. Well, no, I just told you I was traveling. Okay, but if you would like, I can sure as hell take pictures of Mount Rainier, because now I'm in Washington, and I can predict, hey, on a flat plane, that the height of this mountain should be so many degrees off of the horizon. And on a curved plane, the height should be this many degrees off that mountain. Cool. I've done that. I'll have to dig through my phone really deep because that was like 2 months ago, and I'll be glad to show it in the next few days. I got a long weekend this weekend, so that's good. And what I want to do now is to go to the east side of Mount Rainier, where we have a training center there, and do the same thing from over there. Cool. But guess what?
Yeah, tag me when you
the difference, and I will show these. I have them on my phone. The difference between a flat and a curved model was something like 0.35, maybe 0.4 degrees of if the peak of Rainier should appear at this angle or that angle. And it was like, I think it was, I'm kind of off the cuff here, but I'll actually pull the information because it's deep in my phone. But I think it was like 3.2 degrees off the horizon if the Earth is curved, and 3.8 or 7 off the horizon if the Earth is flat. All right. Do you have any objections to how either of those are calculated?
What's the calculation?
How high something is off the ground, curved or flat?
To be honest, I didn't hear the last part of what you said. So,
okay. I'll ask you this: can you determine how many degrees off the horizon something should be based on a given height and distance? This is really the same question as angular resolution, or angular size.
I imagine that you would be able to, like, obviously you'd have to know the angular angular resolution of the camera, or what have you, the resolving power of the camera, or the lens that you're using.
No, I can see Mount Rainier from where I work, like with the naked eye, very, very clearly. It's kind of a big rock. I don't know if you know this.
Okay, I'm not denying that you can calculate it.
All I have to do is point a protractor, a theodolite, a geocam app, whatever, at the top of the mountain and say, hey, this is 3.2 something degrees off of the horizon. And if I did the math for either model, or if I did the math for both models beforehand and then made an observation and then came up with numbers based on that observation, and they happen to match one or the other, would you be convinced?
Yo, bro, like I said, when you find this or when you do the observation, just tag me and then I'll give it my honest look. I'll give it like a fair critique. I'm not gonna ride your dick and tell you what you want to hear. I'm gonna actually be honest, like I was with your first one.
So your answer is yes. Like,
yeah,
empirical data matters to you.
Of course
it does. Even though it didn't matter to you in the first image.
If you say so. But do you understand though that like things that are in the vanishing point that you can't see, you can't see them because the angular resolution is too low. There's the Rayleigh criterion. Yeah, you have to satisfy that. If you're not, then you're not going to be seeing it. You're not going to be discerning between the source point.
And you said that resolution was 0.03. Was that what you said?
0.02, I think, for the human eye. 0.02.
So somehow 0.2 is not visible, but 0.03 is. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're mistaken when you're saying it. Maybe it should be point.
That went well over your head,
or 2 point whatever. No, it didn't go over my head. I'm saying like to say that it is 0.246 or whatever you said it was is incorrect. Maybe it should be, but to say that it is incorrect because it was in the vanishing point of the horizon. So by definition, it was below the Rayleigh criteria.
So angular size suddenly changes at your arbitrary vanishing point.
You could slice it however you want, but if it's in the vanishing point, it doesn't have a resolution of what you claimed it was. It would be below the angular resolution threshold.
So to you, the vanishing point is literally a point in space.
What do you mean a point in space?
Like a distance. Like you can say at this range, at this height. It's a range. Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be just one area.
Not just an apparent convergence of parallel lines.
No, it's an apparent convergence, but it's also, if you're talking about direct to soil measurements, it would be a range of distance.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what to say to that. Like, it's you've made a literal concept of something that things appear to converge into something that light actually converges at this point. And oddly enough, when you zoom in beyond that point, that light hasn't become inverse and things aren't backwards when you zoom in far enough. That's what your vanishing point sounds like. Things converge and eventually fuck all. I don't know.
If that's your takeaway, then,
I mean, you're not articulating any better.
Okay, if you say so.
The vanishing point mathematically is simply when the angular size of something dips below your resolving power, right? Below your personal angular resolution of whatever is observing it, whether it's your eyeball or the lens.
Exactly.
Right?
Now, Dan, when you say dip, do you mean like curve dip or just something gets smaller and it's below resolution?
A lower number. When the angular size is lower than your angular resolution, that determines when it vanishes, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
That is the vanishing point, right? But the problem with this thing that he's showing you is that the calculated angular size of this object is larger than the angular resolution of the camera or of the eye, right? So that's the problem. It hasn't reached the vanishing point yet you still can't see it. So if it's not due to the vanishing point, then it must be something else. And so we're proposing that it's obstruction from the curve.
But even more than that, Dan, the crux of what I'm like my issue with it is the fact that he says that is the angular size of it, when you can't say that if you can't see it, right?
Look, I see that you're getting caught up on that, but just replace that with, hey, the angular size should be this.
That's why I asked him point blank, is it like the angular size should be that value, or is it that value? And he said, no, it is that value. So that's why I'm saying that's where he fucked up.
On that.
Well, if you're going to get caught up on semantics, yes, there was a prediction made, and predictions are a should.
Given that if we could see it, this is the value that it should be, but we can't see it. So what is the cause?
Yeah, right? if that's what it should be, then I can't tell you what, right. Well, I can't tell you what the cause is at that point. That's why I kind of tried to nitpick and to ask him straight up whether to distinguish between the two, because he kept saying that's what it is, and I'm like, what are you getting?
One cause could be that it's hidden,
not visible. That's not it. What?
One cause could be that it's hidden by something, right?
I mean, there's nothing on the horizon. It's just water. So what could it be hidden by?
So the curve of the Earth is one cause.
Mm-hmm. It's a possible cause. It's a possible cause.
Yeah.
Well, good. I think we made progress, because earlier you weren't even saying that that's possible. You're saying,
but you have to say if that's the case, then it's a possible cause. If it is hidden, right? But
can you propose?
We don't know it's hidden.
Theory for why it's not seen, because we already determined that it's not angular size. The angular size should be large enough for you to resolve it.
Yeah, again, my theory is either his resolving power wasn't good enough and he messed up his calculation somehow, or there's more opacity, like more fog and stuff in the atmosphere, and it caused the light to be blocked, and so he couldn't see it at all. And then he only saw it when the sun got higher.
So here's another thing that,
but who knows?
What makes that clear is that you're saying if light is blocked, you should see what's blocking it, and you can see a pretty clear break between the water and the top curve of the sun, like the top edge. Like that's why that is significant, and in my view, is that it's not obstructed.
Okay, you said if light is blocked, then you should be able to see what's blocking it.
Yeah, or at least a reduction in that light, and there's not.
What are you referring to when you say that?
Common
the obstruction.
sense.
What are you referring to? Are you referring to like
if something's in front of a light source, anything. If anything's in front of a light source, if a bird flew in front of that little top edge of the sun in that image at the time that I took the picture, I actually think I might have one.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about easily visible. I'm not talking about easily visible, like things like terrain or animals.
The bird has a smaller angular size than that terrain.
Yeah, I'm talking about the atmosphere. When I said like opacity, I meant like fog or
right. So what I'm saying is there's a pretty clear transition from the horizon or the water to the sun. There's not like a haze or a fuzz in between like you see in a lot of the high, like the black swan thing. You see a lot of haze, a lot of distortion, crooked cranes, all that stuff. There's not done there, and a lot of that is because it is Michigan and it's freshwater, and saltwater tends to create a lot more distortion because of the way it evaporates and it's more dense and all that shit. There's more particulates in the air. So that's why that particular picture and pictures across seeing Chicago are a lot more clear than pictures off the coast. And that's why, like, taking a sunset picture off the coast of a beach, like a saltwater body, it gets very distorted at the bottom end, and then you get all those weird little shapes and all that stuff. But when you're looking over freshwater, you don't get that same effect.
Fair, but I don't think you can really like see it in these photos. These photos are kind of zoomed out, so I don't think you'd be able to even appreciate like some sort of fog or haze that might be on the horizon.
So about the fog, if there was a significant enough fog to obstruct you from seeing something, then the light source from behind that object should also not be seen. It wouldn't reach us.
Yeah, I agree.
But we do see the light source behind it clearly. It's the sun. It's a perfect circle.
Or he was looking and he couldn't see it, and then the sun went, because like during a sunrise, the sun will rise. It'll continue to rise. So maybe he couldn't see it, and then at some point the sun got above, the horizon enough to not be hidden in the vanishing point and obstructed by this opacity, and he was able to see it at that point.
By the way, vanishing point is not just on the horizon. Vanishing point is like, it could be up in the sky.
Direction.
Yeah.
So like a sun above the horizon doesn't magically make it immune to the vanishing point.
No, it's with anything that's going far enough.
Right. And its size.
Yeah.
So I guess what my point is that if we've already ruled out angular resolution being the cause for why we're not seeing it, and I've given you an explanation for why fog can't be that, because we shouldn't see the sun if that's the case, where the light would be so diffuse it would just be like just a evenly lit image. You wouldn't see a shape of the sun if there were fog impacting your ability to see the silhouette of the terrain. Then what other cause could there be?
Who knows? But to automatically assume it's the Earth curving, that's affirming the consequence.
That the globe would predict, right? And whereas you are assuming causes that you don't even know about. You're just guessing.
No, listen, I already said, again, there's the limitations to sight are the resolving power of the lens, the observer height, and the opacity in the atmosphere, right? Those are all verifiable and things that we can actually manipulate ourselves and test and see that they actually play a role. Now, there's this fourth one that you guys are claiming is curvature of the Earth. It's never been actually shown. You can't manipulate it and show it. But I already said it's possible that it could be it's possible. I already said that.
Right.
But you guys are claiming that it's the cause. That's the issue. You're going one step further than abductive reasoning, and not just saying it's a possible cause, but it is the cause, and that's affirming the consequence. And you're wrong to do that.
Well, without an alternative, that makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's proof of cause, but it is evidence of that cause.
I would like to show you something, only mildly related, because it is the horizon. Of me, and you can see my altitude, and it's just under 1,000 feet. And you can very clearly see where a fog layer is building and where it stops and where there's no horizon beyond it. I am in level flight, and it's getting uploaded as soon as I find Discord on my phone. There it is. Shit. Where's the last one? Just give me a second. I've been on my computer, and now I'm looking on debate chat boxes. This is this, right? Yeah, there it is. Block 'em. All right. So even at a mere, not even a full 1,000 feet, mind you, that's MSL. I'm already seeing the horizon drop below what is level to the aircraft.
What are those numbers? 10, 20, 30? Are those?
Which ones?
I don't know. Are there degrees measured on this?
No. Oh, you're talking about the ladder? Yeah. So the 10, 20, 30, those are like that line across is level. That's the artificial horizon. Right. Which doesn't point to the horizon itself. It just means the aircraft is level and perpendicular to the ground below it. On the right side is MSL altitude. And it is cut off, but that is 940 feet. MSL is where I'm at right there. And then down below, you can see radar altitude, which is 460. And I'm not going to make up that last number, but there's one more digit there. And that's my distance above the ground. That's AGL, or above ground altitude, or level, rather. On the left-hand side is just airspeed, and the stuff on the bottom left is just waypoint shit.
What about the 10, 20, 30 right above and below the horizon line?
Yeah, so if I pull up the nose, that just tells me how far up from level the aircraft is, or how far down below
what do those numbers mean? What are the units of those numbers?
Degrees. Yeah, degrees.
Degrees. Okay, that's really cool. So you can actually measure in this image the drop in degrees somewhere between 0 and 10, right? Like maybe 5.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I wish I could get down to tens and hundreds. I wasn't really talking about that. I was just saying that generally the horizon is falling below.
You can take the altitude. Does somebody have a calculator to whip this up? And we can see if at that altitude the drop should be at roughly 5 degrees.
Then you'd have to know the elevation. You have to know the elevation of the curve ahead. Towards the west, the terrain does rise a bit. I'm kind of like Seattle, Lacey, JBLM, all that, and it's not really in a valley, but it's in the lowest ground to the west of Mount Rainier and north of Adams and Helens. And then to the west, there's another small mountain range, and then you get to the ocean. Like the ocean's like an hour, maybe 20-minute drive from where I'm at.
So I have a question. When you lift the nose up of the plane, does the artificial horizon perfectly stay with the real horizon?
So that's what I was saying, and from the get-go, the artificial horizon doesn't point, and this is a misconception that I found that a lot of people have. It doesn't point to the horizon itself. Like if there's a mountain in front of me, the artificial horizon isn't just going to go up to the top of the mountains or anything like that. It's literally just if you had a level, right, and put that level so that the little bubble was in the middle of that level, that's what that represents. If I want to be level, I put that little W-shaped thing with the line across.
No, I'm not talking about the W-shaped angle of attack. I'm talking about the artificial horizon.
Right.
Line.
I'm saying if I put that water line, is what that's called, on the horizon, the aircraft is perpendicular to the ground below it, indifferent to where the actual like visible horizon is.
Okay.
So it's not. It doesn't point to the horizon.
It does when you're on the ground, right?
Yeah, I mean because you're so close to it. Like
Yeah. So when you're on the ground, the artificial horizon is in line with the true horizon. Correct.
Well, at a hover. So the aircraft's gonna sit nose up. So I got to be at a hover. A 5-foot hover, you're not going to see the horizon any lower than that line.
Okay, yeah. Unless like you're on the coast or something, who knows? But or like on a carrier. But anyways, so if you're very low off the ground, and all of a sudden you just tilt the nose up, does the artificial horizon stay in line with the true horizon perfectly? Does it scale properly?
Like it's just, I'm not sure. Like I think
like the W, the angle of attack would go up, right? Let's say you incline like 20 degrees, right? Does the actual artificial does the artificial horizon stick to the true horizon like glue? Like does it scale perfect?
Behind, or are you asking if it's accurate?
I'm asking if it's accurate.
It's aircraft level, but that's like I can't add to that. It's saying the aircraft is level.
It only says the aircraft's level when the angle, when like the W is in line with artificial horizon.
Right. So if I nose the aircraft up 20 degrees, I have to bring it back down 20 degrees in order to meet that level horizon again.
Obviously,
that level
of course.
artificial horizon again.
Of course, but let's say while you nose it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the W's
it doesn't
at 20.
lose track. It doesn't lose track of level, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, so the artificial horizon will stay there perfectly, right?
Yes, I mean it's level.
And it only changes if you increase altitude.
It doesn't it's level. It doesn't are you talking about does the horizon appear to drop even more as I go up? Yes. If that's what you're asking, yes.
Yeah, the artificial horizon. Sorry, go ahead.
Will appear to be higher and higher off of the actual horizon.
Mm-hmm. But if you're if you're staying in the same altitude and just tipping the nose up or down, it won't move at all.
Correct.
And how's it calibrated? With like a barometer or what?
With its gyros. Like a barometer measures altitude.
Mm-hmm.
So all that tells me is how high the aircraft is. It doesn't tell me the attitude of the aircraft. So each axis on the ladder itself, like this whole thing is like that line is the artificial horizon. The ladder itself and the reference to it is called the attitude. So this whole thing is an attitude indicator, and then you have your altitude indicator on the right, airspeed indicator on the left, and then your heading up top. So it's just telling me like when you turn your phone and you have one of those accelerometer apps on your phone, same thing.
Okay, so
except obviously much more sophisticated than what's in your phone.
So given what you know about gyroscopes and how this works, is there any possible cause other than the Earth curving down that can cause this difference?
I can't think of any. No.
Okay.
But it's because like the gyroscope is maintaining its position whilst the aircraft is moving.
Yes.
And that's all it seems to be doing. So all we're actually proving is the fact that a gyroscopic effect will maintain its orientation regardless of the vehicle that it's in.
Yeah. So and my particular aircraft, and it's not mine, it's an Army aircraft, but our particular aircraft is an INU, which uses both inertial and laser gyroscopes, and to get one of the most accurate attitude indicators that you can possibly conceive of. In fact, our GPS is well beyond the requirement of the FAA for GPS stuff, because it's that much more accurate. Fair. So to put it into perspective, what I do as an Apache pilot, the aircraft has to know where it is, where the land below it is, and where my head is. So it keeps track of my I sit in the aircraft, I look at a little bullseye thing, I tell it, okay, I'm looking at this bullseye, and there's little sensors on my helmet that tell the aircraft exactly where I'm looking, right? So it'll point weapons or make a point or anything like that. Based on where I'm looking, it knows where the aircraft is. It knows where winds are coming from because it has separate sensors for that, as opposed to the regular sensors that most aircraft have. So that it can make a ballistic calculation to launch something based on the range, knowing where the ground is. And a little caveat to that. So I was started on the Delta model, now I'm in the Echo, and now we're getting a newer version of the Echo. And to make it even more precise than it already is, it actually now takes DTED level data and accounts for curve, because we're short range. It's a helicopter. We're not fucking bombers. We're not going a whole bunch of miles on engagements. It's fairly short range. But to make it even more accurate, that now accounts for actual curvature as opposed to strict geometry based on the aircraft. Okay.
Hellfire. I'll wait. On those artificial horizons, how responsive are they? Do they lag behind if you make sudden jerks?
I have not noticed any lag. In fact, I think I gotta edit that video. There's a lot of videos that I have GoPro where you can see it, and I'm doing maneuvering flight. However, I need to learn how to edit video so that I can block out frequencies that aren't anybody's business outside the military, and the radio chatter. Once I do that and I can cover that stuff up, I'll be able to share those videos pretty liberally without any issue.
How jealous I am of you right now. It's really cool.
It's overrated, man. U.S. Army. U.S. Army.
Okay. Gotcha.
I always wanted to be a pilot. I grew up and always said that, but then I had a shit eye and kind of just gave up trying.
Yeah. I probably spend maybe 5% of the time actually doing that job, and the rest of the time the Army has its bullshit. So don't be too jealous. It has moments, but I'm definitely ready to get out of the Army. I'll be in 19 years in October, so I got a year and some change left. And I'll probably.
Quick question.
Sure.
Quick question, mate. How often do you get told, "Go yell at the rookie"?
Yeah. Oh gosh. It's taxing. Like, I mean, I'm not super senior, but I have 6 years flying now, so I'm expected to know shit and teach people. So it gets taxing. Yeah. I did fly in Australia though. That was a lot of fun. And I still have some of the sectionals, and I actually use those when I argue flat Earth stuff when it comes to maps, like navigational maps. Like,
so where did you go?
We were primarily on shoalwater. We went from Brisbane up to Townsville or Townsend. Yeah, Townsville. Yeah. And then further up into the shoalwater. Did some of the joint exercise of the Your Boys and some of the Kiwis. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun.
That's up near the Tiwi Islands. Yeah. Just up north of Townsville.
Nice. I went to oh, I tell you what, man, I had to like get my anti-gravity suit on and all that stuff. It was wild. Oh, one thing I did notice though, and I didn't know this before, compasses, even aircraft compass, are generally calibrated where they're expected to be sold, like for the general market. So our compass, our magnetic compass in the aircraft, which is used as standby, we have more accurate systems. It's more of a backup. When we got to Australia, because they're weighted so that they stay pretty level in the northern hemisphere, like they had a very cockeyed angle the way they sat, just sitting on the ground. And I was like, why the fuck is it doing that? And I looked it up and I learned that
about 23.5 degrees, wasn't it? Pretty crazy, eh?
You know, I don't know if it was that much, but if I had to make a general guess, it wasn't far from that. I think I have a picture of it somewhere. I'd have to dig through all my Australia pics. It's a pretty good cant.
Yeah, when it's northern to south, your magnetic position changes, and
and then the declination over there was pretty drastic. It was like here, in Washington State. The declination is 13 to 15 degrees depending on where you're at, so that's a lot on its own. Some places of the southern hemisphere in Australia are up to 30 degrees magnetic declination that you have to account for, and it's wild.
Pretty crazy. Yeah, but that's all because like we're below that equator, and
and so like a compass like favors the north because it's weighted towards that, but it's still going to chase the southern magnetic field as well. Like it's still going to orient to it. It's just where that weight is to make up for really the curve of the earth depending on which hemisphere you're on. Go figure. That kind of makes it.
The F-35s they have to be flown over here, and then they have to have they have to rip apart the whole console and change
I can imagine.
They only have to change that one thing.
Oh.
But they have to pull the whole thing out to change it. Yeah,
that's a lot of work. Man, that's well. I mean, I guess that makes sense because, like, obviously they don't want to deliver an incomplete package, but they don't want to calibrate it in the wrong region either. So I guess that makes sense that they unfortunately have to go through that ass pain of.
It's just that basically that stereoscopic gyroscope compass. That's the only thing they have to change, but because they one piece that front panel, they have to pull the whole panel out to get to the one thing.
That is a nightmare. I was before I went to flight school, I was a mechanic on Chinooks on 47s, and so I did it all. I did the depot level maintenance, support maintenance, line unit maintenance, flight crew chief, instructor. So I did it all. And there was definitely a lot of things like when something was broken, like it's like working on a Subaru. Like to change out something as silly as a throwout bearing, you got to pull out the exhaust, the cross shafts, the rear shaft, obviously the whole transmission for a throwout bearing. But like the amount of work, or even just a sway bar in the front, you have to lift the fucking engine to change out a sway bar in the front of at least my model. The Legacy, I have or it's a Liberty for you guys down there, but a Legacy. So it like small tasks that take all that surrounding work is just like, especially in aviation, it's like, bro, I don't want to do that.
Anyway, so anyone got anything interesting to talk about?
No. Actually, I should probably get into bed. I gotta wait. Wow, it's 1 a.m. So I was listening to.
It's 6:35 p.m. on the 3rd of September.
Look at you. I'm still. I'm on the 3rd. Yeah, I'm on the 3rd now.
Welcome to the future. Good job.
Woo! I caught up. That was a fun thing. Like, being in contact with people back home. On my tablet, I always had the time zones of all the, because we went from continental United States to Hawaii to Australia, Indonesia, and then up to Japan. So I had to like have a time zone widgets on my tablet to kind of see like, all right, this person's on this time, I can call them now or something like that. It was like, I liked it though. I wish we had a little more freedoms around Australia. We were there longer than was intended because we had to get to other joint exercises in other countries. But they give us enough liberties to where we can check out like Magnetic Island and some of the local areas and things like that. It was nice. I didn't get a chance to go to
Magnetic Island.
I did read about it, and I don't remember. I know it has to do with like the interference there is more than normal.
Yeah, it's granite,
and
so it's got a heavier mass. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we actually have another island down here in South Australia called Granite Island. Has the same properties, smaller. Yeah.
I was gonna go to see the Great Barrier Reef, but they kind of the fun police screwed that up for us, so I didn't get to do that. But I definitely want to go back on my own time, like as a personal trip, and do it on holiday or something like
that. Mention the hologram, okay? Because apparently a couple of people are bringing up it doesn't just so on the hologram stuff, right? The deal.
The hologram?
Yeah, look. Okay, just because we're paid actors and shills doesn't mean you can expose the secret, okay?
Were those koalas real? I don't know.
Hey.
I did get when
they're the silent assassins, right? You know that.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's actually very, very small people dressed up in little bear suits to look cute, so they can actually spy.
I like their grumpy faces though.
Just don't bring up the combat wombat.
Dot looks mad here. Attack the globe, dude.
I find that funny.
What's that?
Dot is trying to purvey you as a flat earther in the chat. He's not doing a very good job.
I think is he, or is he just saying attack the globe, dude, and then saying my name, or is he saying I should attack the globe? I honestly can't. Like, so okay, yeah, he understands.
Yeah,
he's telling the other people to attack me as a glober.
Ah, I guess he's on point for
he says no.
He thought you were a flat earther. Yeah, that's my little bitch, by the way. That's chemo.
I guess he wasn't listening.
Chemo, bite your nuts off.
And here's so. Did any of you catch the what's his name, Jeffrey and Nathan Thompson modern day debate on Monday, maybe Tuesday? I can't remember.
No, but I could probably predict exactly how it went.
Oh, it went terribly. So, well, at one point, Jeffrey said like, his words were, I'll debate anyone, anytime, anywhere. And he was asked about pilots because he was in the Air Force apparently for some time and thinks that's a credential for him to debate flat Earth or globe Earth. And so I commented like less than 12 hours. I was like, hey, I'll take you up on that challenge. He punks out and says, you don't have enough subscribers. Like, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a content creator. But he straight up bailed. So I've been kind of posting in a couple different servers like, hey, this dude bailed. Put some pressure on him. Maybe he'll cave and want to do it. But yeah, like my profile picture on YouTube is me in a fucking flight helmet. So I mean, it's not the subs. It's the fact that he
Actually,
didn't really want a
Hellfire.
pilot.
Hellfire hammer, put it that way, because I'm guessing you're a copter pilot.
I'm sorry?
Foolish. Just wait.
Sorry.
Hellfire. If you want, we know a couple of people that can talk directly to modern day debate, and he can tee it up.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I want to. I definitely want to debate Jeffrey because he bitched out. But I even more so want to debate flat earther pilots, and that's really what I want to go after. But every time I ask, go ahead.
And
that's a guy called Blue Marble.
Yeah, he's a Glober though.
Oh damn! Okay.
Wait, no. No. I'm sorry. Blue Marble, I think, is a flat earther, but he's not. He doesn't claim to be
Blue Marble's not a flat earther. You were right first time.
Okay. What's the?
Are there flat Earth pilots though? Do you know of any flat Earth pilots?
I haven't run into any, and so like my thing is like I can believe that there might be a few pilots. But I'd have to question what they are a pilot. Because if they're a crop duster and they've never flown more than 5-10 nautical miles away from their farm, they don't deal with what long range and cross country pilots have to deal with. So they don't have to know shit really, except how to operate that aircraft around their farm. And it's not to disparage them. Like they're farmers. Farmers work hard as fuck. And if someone gets that bonus to be able to fly around his farm, fucking props to him. But when it comes to like, because you don't like if you fly an experimental plane, you don't even need it certified. Like there's a lot of ways to get in the air without actually being a pilot. But when you actually have to go long distances and you're flying commercial, military, even privately over long distances where you're flying instrument flights, in order to get those certifications, you have to know, like, go through a lot of different topics. And anyone who's ever used any navigation map that was worth a shit for navigation would know, like, no. If you can't provide me with a flat Earth based map that's useful for navigation without having to use what are they called? Total brain fart right now. English is my second language. This is my excuse right now.
A GPS or a compass?
No. The two tensors.
The azimuthal equidistance map.
Yeah. So,
the beast.
Oh goodness, so all right. So here's a wild. I actually have
closed NATO in the 90s because of that. You know, they did. They shut down NATO because that stupid map.
It's terrible. So like from Townsville to Indonesia is a shorter distance from Florida in the United States to Washington State. However, the flight from Townsville to Indonesia is indeed short. It's 4.5 hours, where it takes 5 hours to get from Florida to Washington. But if you look at that map that flat earthers use, the distance between those points, between Townsville and Indonesia, depending on which map, because they're all warped a little bit different, are anywhere from 50% to twice as large, 100% larger than the actual distance that you have to fly. And one of my key arguments on that is that, like, a pilot has to use these maps, and if those maps are not correct because they're hiding some fucking flat earth shit, then he's going to run out of fuel because he's planning for his weight of his aircraft, his fuel burn rate based on that weight, and the altitude that he wants to fly. And if that distance is incorrect, let alone twice as long as what the map says it is, people are going to die on a regular basis. Like, really badly. So that's one of the biggest things I look at, especially when it comes to Southern Hemisphere maps. Whereas Northern Hemisphere maps will depict the United States as being much smaller. A flat Earth map will depict the United States as being much smaller than what it is. So now, same thing goes. Like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead. Is that the one with Jeffrey, Nathan? I said Natalie. Nathan. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. That's the one Jeffrey was like, I'll challenge anyone, blah, 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 but nobody wants to accept the challenge. And so I commented. I was like, hey, and I emailed him. I went to his YouTube page and emailed the contact that he has on there. No response from that, but he replied to the comment that I don't have enough subs, so I'm not worth his time. When in the debate, he literally said he would debate anyone, anytime, anywhere. And then started to boast about like all the ride-alongs that he's done as a crew chief. Yeah. Well, maps for one thing, like that's pretty big. Maps that are actually used for. So a map that I use, a sectional, like because it is a globe, but it's a little piece of that globe and it's made flat. There's about 0.3% margin of error. So that's, that's nothing in fuel burn. And it's relatively accurate. So it'll get me within a quarter mile of any fucking airport that I want to go to. But if you can't... Yes. Mm-hmm. So, like, can you be more specific in terms of diversion? Are you talking about like stops to stops instead of a direct flight?
Yeah, I'm just talking about making sense on a globe versus sense
on
a flight.
So, and here's a very easy answer to that. So, like, I know you guys generally don't like the answer, but before I say that one, you can get a charter flight direct anywhere to anywhere, provided they have an aircraft that has enough fuel capacity to take that direct flight. There's literally nothing restricting anybody from doing that and going to a charter company and doing that. The military does it all the time. We fly commercial a lot through charter airlines. So we're not going those regular routes. All the other airlines, they're a business, man. And those charter flights are expensive for a reason. But the other airlines, they're a business. They have to say, all right, generally we get 1,000 people that go from here to here. But occasionally we get like 200 people that want to go from this other place to here. Well, are they going to spend a whole aircraft, maintain a whole nother aircraft, and have another flight that they got to push to move those 200 people directly? Or are they going to direct them to where they already get a mass influx of passengers? So a lot of it is economics, and a lot of it is the availability of certain airports that will or will not work with specific airlines and regional airlines and things like that. So when you say that you cannot get a direct flight anywhere,
yeah.
It is inaccurate.
No, I didn't say that.
In that you can get a charter flight.
No,
you're going to pay more for it.
I didn't say that, didn't
Well, I mean, maybe not you, but as a general.
Let's have a look at some of these flights, right? We can look at them together and see how they don't make any sense on a globe, but on a flat plane, they make perfect sense. Well,
Hello, little bit.
So we've got this first flight.
I call bullshit already.
Yep, bullshit. You're lying again.
Let him go. Let him go.
Oh no! This guy's a habitual liar, Hellfire. Just so you know.
I believe me. I've dealt with. I've had people tell me how I plan a flight. Like I don't do it. So it's fine. If he's incorrect, I'm going to call him out on it, and I'm going to point out the best I can. So let him go ahead.
But are you prepared for the salad that will follow? I've got some dressing if you want some.
It is 1 a.m. 1:20, so I will give you at most 40 minutes because I do have to work tomorrow.
All right, so look, let's take a look at this first. Emergency landing diverted to Moscow.
Right? I love that. I love these emergency ones.
Yeah.
To Moscow or Alaska?
Moscow. So let's have a look. Go to 618. Have a look at that. Explain the diversion, why they took that diversion on a ball, which doesn't make any sense. And obviously, on a flat plane, it makes perfect sense.
Hold on, you said go to what? Like, are you like a timestamp?
Yeah. So in that video, where I'm at 6:32 right now, we've got a straight shot.
Oh.
We've got Chicago, Moscow, and Doha. Makes perfect sense on a flat plane. Absolute straight shot. No need to divert, no need to turn. You go straight from Chicago,
was that
you go
time
straight
stamp?
over to Moscow, and then you land in Doha.
6:32.
6:32. 32.
Okay.
Can you
Now,
explain how that flight...
just to fill in blanks, are you saying they don't make sense on a flat or on a globe map based on a flat projection or an actual globe?
Yeah,
All right.
if you
off the top of your head, do you know which airports they came and went from?
Yeah, it's all in the video. Just go from 6:32, play it on, and then you can see on the globe they have to go here, go there, go up around, all over the place. But on a flat Earth, you just go straight over, and stop.
All right, I'm watching. Just give me a second.
Now explain this to me on a globe. How does this make sense?
Let me watch.
No, I'm just filibustering because we're
let him watch, Chemo. Just hush.
Spurs.
No, this is not to
you got to give him some. You got to give him some time to listen to the video and watch.
Not to him.
Jesus
While he's
Christ,
looking,
Spurs, you're spazzing on him.
Calm down, right? While we're looking, while he's looking at that, I'm just describing on the screen what we're looking at. We've got the distance from Slovakia to Moscow, 1,000 miles.
You know what you should do?
What?
You should look at it on the.
Is have a look also
Google.
and explain how this makes sense.
I am, and I'm telling you how I'm doing it.
For us,
if you look on Google Earth, hold on, just let me say what I'm going to say. Let me say what I'm going to say. If you look on Google Earth with the actual sphere and you draw the lines, you'll see that it makes perfect sense.
All right,
that's what I want to see now. I want to see from the pilot.
I'm not ignoring anyone. I just want y'all to know I'm not ignoring you, but I am going to mute the chat so
that's
that I can
That's fine. I want you to go away and come back and have a look because this needs explaining. And obviously, before you speak to any professional pilots, they're going to need to know that you understand what makes sense on a board and on a flat plane, right?
He's a military pilot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
20 years, Chemo. If you were listening,
that he says he is, and he wants to speak to other professional pilots, he's going to have to demonstrate that things make sense on a globe.
What, like you're going to demonstrate the flat Earth?
Yeah.
Are you a pilot, Chemo?
So why are you telling us what to think, though? You're telling him what to. He knows
right now, the flat Earth model. You see, they're using the Gleason's map as well.
Oh, sorry, is anyone else allowed to talk, Chemo? Or is this just a you show?
No. Go ahead.
So if you look at 632 and that particular, the line drawn across the AE map, the Gleason map that this guy is using, he draws a straight line, and the flight would take them across the Baltic Sea, and it doesn't. The flight, and he admits it a little bit later on, that the flight goes over Slovenia, which is near Yugoslavia, which makes perfect sense if you're going to Doha. It's a curved route because it's a great circle route. It's that kind of route we're doing over a globe. And yeah, funny enough, when you project it on an equidistant map, it will look straight. So what? Doesn't prove anything.
Okay, thank you for your opinion.
Nada. Nish.
That's okay, thank you for your opinion. But yeah, I mean, these flights cannot work on a globe. The emergency landing...
I reject that.
You're just going to interrupt me then?
Well, you're making a false statement when you say these flights don't work on a globe, and yes, they do. And the representation in your video was not the flight route that guy was then looking for the flight between Chicago O'Hare and Doha.
I can only accept what you say if you have a model. You don't have a globe Earth model like we have a flat Earth model.
And you don't have a flat Earth model, so we ignore everything you say. Yay! You finally worked it out, Chemo.
Mippet, we have a scientifically accurate model, whereas you have a globe that is not for educational purposes.
Show me. I don't believe you. Show me. Show me.
Yeah, I can show you. Problem.
Well, if that's the case, 1 second, if that's the case, and you've got a flat Earth model that is scientifically accurate, can you tell me, and I want to see the calculations that you guys have developed for this, to show the fuel consumption for that flight?
Here's the model.
And you're not allowed to use gravity for it. So, we want to know the amount of fuel that airline would have to have put into their jet to fly from Chicago to Doha.
You're saying...
Well, what's underpinning all of this is... What's underpinning all of this is how does Spurs know that flight's real?
I don't think
they've been tracked GPS. What's wrong with you?
Right. So the flights in the southern hemisphere from Sydney to Santiago with the GPS are real?
Sweet. Yeah. That means he thinks satellites exist because there's no way you get a GPS signal in the middle of the fuck.
Now, come on, Spurs. Are they real in the southern hemisphere or not?
Southern? What do you mean when you say southern?
I'm back. Wow. So I expected that to be a little more challenging.
Can you make that make sense on a globe and
absolutely, absolutely. I even already modeled it. I put a direct flight route from Chicago O'Hare to Qatar on the map that the app that I actually use for planning flights. Coincidentally, it's globe based. Just give me a second. I need to find the screenshot folder in my tablet. And there the fuck.
So it was supposed to be a direct flight from Qatar to Moscow, to Chicago.
Let him go. He's bringing it up. By the way, the G on GPS stands for global.
No, ground.
What's interesting is I have a photograph of a place that's in a bowl in a valley where I get no cell signal, but I still get GPS signal. So that's.
Can you show me how it works on the globe, please?
The flight? Yeah, give me a second. I have a lot of screenshots on this tablet. I gotta find the right one, brother. Let me sort by date here. I'll probably.
Because we're looking for that direct flight, and all of these flights. I think there's about 3 or 4, maybe 6. I can't remember what it is.
I'm aware.
All of these flights do not work on a globe, so you have to explain.
Except I'm already about to show you that is a false statement.
That's false.
I just did the I just did it on a globe, and it goes right over Moscow, about 300 miles away from Moscow. It doesn't go any closer to any of the other airports. And even if it had, I was thinking about it as I was doing it. So not only is it just wrong to say that it's 1,500 miles away from that, it's not true. You got to put it on an actual globe. You got to draw the line and see it spherical, see it go around the sphere, and you'll see it goes right above Moscow. And then you got to also remember whatever the condition this kid was in. I don't know. They said he was in a coma. He had some sort of fit and was in a coma. Part of the decision on which airport to go to might have very well been which city had the right kind of hospital, which city had the hospital that the kid needed. So it could very well be that there was maybe a closer airport. I don't think there was. I couldn't find a closer one, but if there was, it just didn't have a good enough hospital for them to stop at. So in any event, it's just simply, as with many of these things, simple false claim. It's not 1,500 miles away from the road. It's more like 350 miles.
Yeah, okay, great. So that's one excuse for one flight. So now, what was your excuse, pilot?
Hold on, I'm still pulling up. I have a lot of screenshots on this damn tablet. I gotta figure out.
See that it makes sense on a ball.
Once you sort your screenshots out by date, you might get the more recent ones on top.
For some reason, it's not giving me the date column on. Like when I go, it's on the tablet. Actually, fuck it. I got Discord on the tablet. What am I doing here?
In no time at all. It'd been very easy. See?
I did it in no time. It's a matter of finding a screenshot, not doing it. I didn't even have to finish the video. I just watched the video to know what the destination and the departure point were, and here it comes.
The funny thing is, considering he's saying what's your excuse, it sounds like regardless of what you actually tell him, he's just going to view it as an excuse and not actually a reason. So he's already poisoned the well.
I accept it.
So you're presupposing something there, first.
All right, it's coming up.
All right, good stuff. So this is your version of how it works on a globe.
It's a direct line on a globe from Chicago O'Hare to Qatar.
That direct line. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. That looks good. Still doesn't make sense.
One of my favorites is the one from Vietnam, or was it Thailand? I have that one too, because people are saying, well, it was from was it Vietnam? It was Vietnam to San Francisco, and they're like, well, why did it divert to Alaska?
Not very clear.
Because a Great Circle path went directly over effing Alaska, so that one made sense. So I've yet to see one of these impossible or unreasonable flights on these divergences where they were incorrect.
Yeah,
or
that does make sense on a globe. That's fair enough. It looks like it could just go straight down across. Yeah? Would it lie to me, right?
No.
So let's have a look at another flight. Hawaii to New York.
Hawaii to New York. Okay, what about it?
Yep, so another emergency landed. It stopped in San Francisco.
You do realize that the West Coast is in between Hawaii and the East Coast, right? And New York is on the East Coast.
I mean, I know you're from England, but come on, dude.
Probably doesn't. His geography is pretty poor from history.
We're just checking if they work or not on a board.
Okay, I mean, I can do it. I'm just saying that's basic geography. All right, you said into, what's that, JFK?
Show me the path, please.
I am. JFK International to Hawaii. Do you know which island, which Hawaii airport? There's like 3 or 4 pretty major ones depending on the island. I'll pick the, I mean, it's the same general location. Fuck it.
I mean, it literally buzzes the Golden Gate Bridge. This path does. You kind of land. I mean, it goes right above San Francisco.
Maui Memorial International. Add to route. Zoom out. And screen grab. And coming your way. Time now. I don't see the issue. Now, I have a video, it's a short, like 20-second video on YouTube that I can link where I show all those Southern Hemisphere routes from fucking South America, Perth, South Africa. Like, I did that if you'd like to see that. Let me just pull up my own video to share that with you guys. So that'll kind of cover the whole why don't these paths cross.
This is that there are no direct flights. There was always an excuse. Because Qantas is supposed to fly.
You can literally get a charter flight anywhere you want to go. You just pay a lot more money for it.
I think Qantas is supposed to show a direct flight from the north to south or from one position to another. And they keep finding excuses to stop somewhere every single time.
What
they don't run on air and water, bro. They gotta get gas. They gotta pick up passengers. They gotta get the most efficient use of their aircraft, so they're not wasting
these were emergency
gallons of fuel to pick up 4 or 5 people.
These were emergency landings, not like they need. So they had to stop.
I mean, we just went through 2 of them.
If there weren't any emergency landings, they wouldn't have had to stop, right?
Like, what other ones are you taking? We just went through 2. What other ones do you have an issue with?
Because those flights were supposed to be
flies direct from New York to Sydney.
Yeah,
direct
so there were no
New York to
flights.
Non-stop. It's the world's longest non-stop commercial flight.
Okay. But do we have a problem with it, or what?
I don't think so. I just think that's refuting what Spurs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because you have a massive amount of people in New York, and you have a massive amount of people in Sydney.
The idea is that they don't fly continuously. The Qantas doesn't do, like, say, from Santiago, South Africa, or something like that.
Chemo, stop lying.
Why do they emergency stop every time? Every time that they stop in between.
Every single flight that's ever gone between those destinations have had an emergency?
There seems to be
or have you only heard about the flights that had an emergency?
Yeah, that's the claim, is that there's some kind of emergency stop.
I mean, you can look up the flights and see how many are scheduled and compare how many reported emergencies they have. That's not difficult to pull up. Like, that's something you can do yourself. Without restriction. You broke up. I'm not sure. I heard a lady.
Actually, there's a new one now. There's the Qatar to Auckland direct flight.
Yeah, Qatar is a growing economic center, so it makes sense. It's got more people. There's more travel. There's more business. We can talk about whether it's corrupt or not. That's another story. But the flights are there because the demand is there.
Yeah, but those flights are not tracked.
The 10 longest flights. I'm going to post this in the chat. This is the 10 longest commercial flights you can book non-stop.
You're stepping on each other. I couldn't hear what either said really. I mean, I'm not going to say who goes first. I'm not a moderator.
I'll let Kima go first.
Okay.
The hilarious thing is one of them is a moderator.
Oh, really?
You wouldn't even know, though, would you? You'd never guess that, right? Yeah. Because it's not abused like the rest of you guys. Where, be quiet, or I'll mute you. Be quiet, or I'll mute you. Let me speak.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's
or I'll
good.
mute
Like,
you.
and I generally like to have these conversations that are not heated. Because I like open ear. I like to listen. I mean, it may seem like I'm very biased, but that's kind of what experience gets you, is some bias. And if I have a reason to doubt that I can articulate a point that's given to me, I'm gonna express that. But if I don't, I'll be like, I don't know. And I'll look into it. I'm not so arrogant. I know I probably sound arrogant in particular topics. I definitely sound arrogant because I'm pretty well versed in it and have to exercise that knowledge on a regular basis as opposed to just take it for granted.
Hey Spurs, have you had a look at Hong Kong to Los Angeles and compared that to Sydney to Santiago yet? Because they're both about the same distance from the equator, one in the northern and one in the southern direction.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
They're not far off.
Like, I haven't thought about. Like, I don't look up.
Oh, have a look at those. Maybe if you get a chance, Mr. Hammer, have a look at those on your flight planner, because they're very similar distances, and they're about the same distance away from the equator. One in the north and one in the south.
What was the destination of one of them?
The northern hemisphere is Hong Kong to Los Angeles.
So
the southern hemisphere is Sydney to Santiago. And then you can cross-reference that with Sydney to Los Angeles as well.
Just give me a second. I'm actually just typing it in. Hong Kong to San Diego, you said?
No, Hong Kong to Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Well, Dallas to Sydney is 8,578 miles. Or 7,454 nautical miles, if you prefer that.
Oh, there's a lot in LA. LAX, that's the big one. All right, here is
LAX. Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to make it so that you can see the route distance itself and zoom out.
Well, the whole thing with those two comparable flights is that how could it possibly work on a flat pizza disc shaped Earth?
Oh, I haven't seen what they might look like on a flat Earth, but I mean, I can imagine
they
look kind of weird.
they don't match what actually happens.
Here is Hong Kong to LA and Sydney to what?
Santiago.
South
America.
Okay. I think I actually have that airport already saved because of those southern hemisphere routes. Actually, that exact route I already have. It's in that video that I linked with all the southern hemisphere routes. I can take a screenshot of them all right now. Just got to say show routes. I'm looking for Santiago right now.
Hey, maybe we could get Wolfie 6020 Dallas and this guy to talk to Chemo's 4 professional flat Earth pilots. Wouldn't that be a great discussion?
I mean, I've been loving the idea of doing it. I just I go to the other servers and be like, hey, I'm just looking for pilots that are flat earthers. I'd love to debate, but I never really get a response. So it's disappointing.
Yeah, we got Globus pilots as well.
On that screenshot you posted there, Mr. Hammer, is that that's 47 degrees north? Which that's Los Angeles, is it?
Yeah, right. Let me look at the image so I know what you're talking about. The grid on the top, right. Ignore that. That's my current location. It's not. So the actual grid of those places doesn't show up on the route. I mean, I can pull them up, but what that information up top is where I am. It's my current location, not a specified airport.
All right.
I can pull up LAX and KLAX. So this is KLX's LA's info, and you'll see it's 33 degrees north. Can you just tell me the destinations, and I'll just punch it in real quick? Give me a second to. Oh, I already have that one. You're talking about the one that diverted into Alaska, right?
Taiwan to Los Angeles.
I'm actually just gonna go ahead and pull it up, because I have that one saved from previous discussions.
Why don't we concentrate on the non-stop flights? I've just put a post of 10 of them, so take your pick, Chemo. Can you prove that?
I mean,
no
one that was interested in the topic of discussion just demonstrated them, but they're there. They run out of seats. Well, that's because radar has a limit of seeing over the horizon.
That's why it's got a limit. Otherwise, it wouldn't.
I said radar, not GPS. Okay, so hold on. This is simple. This is ultimately simple. All right. So a GPS satellite, does that transmit a location?
No.
It does not transmit. No. All right. So what a GPS what happens is a GPS receiver will look at the sky and say, I see this satellite that identifies itself, this satellite that identifies itself, this satellite that identifies itself. They're all in synchronized time based on their orbits because of time dilation is a real thing. And it knows this satellite's supposed to be here at this time because it's set trajectory and a set orbit that it has. Based on the angle that I see that satellite, up to, it's like some will track 27 satellites at the same time. It says, I am here. So the unit with the GPS receiver, the satellite, or the antenna, not the satellite, is what's doing those calculations saying, I am here. So when your phone says, I see 3 or 4 satellites, it's making a general estimation. And the more satellites that it can find in the sky. Right. But so hold on. Let me finish my point. Right. And they don't lose signal. So the GPS satellite does not tell anybody where any of its recipients or clients are. Okay. Hold on. Let me finish. This will answer your question. So that GPS satellite has nothing to do with anything tracking where that aircraft is. Another mode of communication, whether it's line of sight, or a satellite that's on a different part of the orbit that it can't talk to at a given moment, or it's too high in latitude for it to reach when it's too far south, for whatever reason, that mode of communication, whether it's ground-based, air-based, satellite, fucking AWAC, whatever, is not making contact with that plane. The GPS still works. The plane still knows where it is. It's just that the way it conveys its I'm here moment is broken in line of sight. But the GPS still works. The plane didn't lose itself. It's not like, fuck, I don't know where I'm at, and just hoping that it runs into land at some point. Right. What I'm saying is, like, whatever means they use to show where this aircraft is at a given moment is just losing. It's for the same reason that you get blackouts in communications in a storm, because now, like, there's too much obstruction, too much precipitation, clouds, hail damage, whatever, keeping you from watching DirecTV and pissing you off because you're paying for a service that you can't get. Which, not coincidentally, satellite dishes for TV services have to be aimed for the particular satellite that they're using at a particular latitude that they're at. That's not a coincidence.
You see the location of those planes now, Chemo, with ADS-B. They track them all the way. They track
right.
Them,
so
track,
okay. So ADS-B is a little. All right. We're gonna go in a rabbit hole here. So ADS-B, an aircraft transmits on its transponder and an ADS-B transmitter that says, "I'm here at this altitude, this heading. My velocity is this." And I don't remember if it syncs up altimeter setting, which is a whole other subject of the discussion. But it says, "I am here," and any aircraft within that signal range will get that signal and be like, okay, and then it'll get a little boop on their map or whatever they use to say, or it might just be an indicator that says, hey, this call sign is this distance in this direction from you. Additionally, all right, most ADS-B receivers will have two antennas. One is that air base, that's air to air, and is a ground based one. So if you get a radar terminal service from like Seattle, JFK, like all those big ones, they receive that, but they also transmit it out to everybody. So sometimes you'll get two icons with the same call sign, and usually most software will merge those because it knows, like, all right, I'm getting a signal from an aircraft and I'm getting a signal from the ground base that receives those signals as well. So there's a lot of relaying going on. It's very, very effective, and like the military is still technically exempt from having to use it for obvious reasons. But now we're kind of like, all right, we'll fucking do it. And our newer version of our helicopter will at least transmit. It won't receive because we don't need or care for it, really. So yeah, like for example, the Kobe crash, the ADS-B data like tells me everything I need to know about what happened in that crash, because it is that effective in keeping track of each other. But it's still a line of sight thing.
It now includes satellite. Now ADS-B will now let you track aircraft all the way across the ocean.
That's pretty awesome.
It used to be ground based. It is now inclusive of satellite.
Oh shit! It's Blue Marble Science, man. You gotta recognize that voice. I love it when you're in debates, man. I love your debunks too, man. I really like your work.
Thanks, man. And don't confuse ADS-B with TCAS. They're separate things.
All right.
TCAS is what aircraft are looking at each other with.
So you're talking not the same as TACAN, but similar.
No, TACAN is TACAN's ground based military.
Right. But we have a air-to-air version of it.
And they're normally coincident with a VOR. That's why you see on charts you see VOR TAC vortex. Yep. And that's both civilian VOR and military.
We use those. So it's like the Apache specifically, the Delta model. All it had was an NDB. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It was for emergency only. We got the Echo models. We have dual VORs. We have ILS, and we have RNAV that we still can't officially use. But it fucking works. You can't have a corruptible database, and obviously when you can manipulate target data and things like that, you have a corruptible database. So we're not technically allowed to use it. There are some exemptions, but the newer version of the Echo model now has that air-to-air. It uses the same TACAN antenna, and I may use different terminology because like we're new to that specific feature. So now we'll actually be able to do DME approaches like the correct way instead of with what we've been doing for years. It just wasn't approved per se. So that's pretty cool. I personally love instruments. The Apache community is terrible with instruments in general because they used to not have it. But I make it a point to fly instruments as often as possible. So if I do go inadvertent, I'm not doing something that's new to me.
Well, what's really weird, I've just gone and checked one of those flights that Chemo says, don't exist and are not real, and yet I can book it.
Well, I'll tell you
you
this.
cannot book it. It will have an emergency land. But look,
just shut up. Just shut up for a second.
Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Just a moment, Chemo. Starting in about 1985, I made frequent trips from either San Francisco or Los Angeles direct to Hong Kong and return the same way, nonstop. So now you either call me a liar or you take that back. Those flights have been existing for the last 35 years.
I've
been on them, Chemo.
Now, Chemo, I want to show one more picture since we were on the topic of GPS.
No. Let's move on a little bit. Still with the planes, though. But what I want to understand is...
Well, it has to do with planes.
What?
I've flown from Heathrow to Cape Town.
No, listen.
How far?
Listen up. So, did you say you fly a commercial plane or a fighter plane? Fighter jet?
An attack helicopter.
But what about planes?
When it comes to navigation, there's really no difference. I fly
Can
instruments,
you fly an
I
airplane,
fly long distance. I have a private license, yes, but
so you've got this
plane.
Listen to what I'm saying. So you've got this aeroplane. You're over Niagara Falls, right? And you get towards the end of the falls, and I want you to go over the curve of that Niagara Falls. What will you have to do? Talk to me. So you're flying over the
I don't
water
know what
parallel.
you mean by the curve.
Yeah, so you're flying over Niagara Falls parallel. You get to the end of the waterfall. What will you have to do?
To stay at my same...
No, I want you to go around the curvature of the Niagara Falls. What do you have to do? What different will you have to do other than when you're parallel with the water?
You're talking about committing suicide.
Yeah, so you're going to do like a daredevil maneuver, right? But I want you to talk me through it. So you're flying. Josh, you're not a pilot. I know you've picked strawberry. Let the pilot speak.
Hold on. I'm trying to clarify what you're asking. Are you
do you
talking
know what
about
Niagara Falls is?
General? Hold on. Right. I know what. Are you talking about the curve as following like its shape along the ground? Or are you talking about the curve of the Earth? No, I'm trying to clarify what you mean by curve. Are you talking about the curve of the Earth? Am I compensating for the curve of the Earth?
What's difficult at what I'm saying? You've got your pilot jet. You're flying over level over the water of Niagara Falls. You're approaching the curve of where the water bends. What difference will you do as you go over that curvature? What will change in your instruments, in your navigation, in how you control the plane? What will you do differently?
Nothing.
So I've made no changes to my pressure altitude. That's what I'm asking. Like, no changes to pressure. I just happen to fly over dropped off, essentially terrain, but in the form of water, right?
So you're approaching the edge of the fall. What are you going to do if you want to go over that curved water? If you want to go down towards the ground, what are you going to do differently?
Can you illustrate what you're asking? Because
let's go through it again. So you're flying over the flat water, yeah?
Am I on the top of the fall or the bottom of the fall right now?
I think I might know what he's asking.
At the top. So you're at the top of the fall, yeah? And in front of you, you see the horizon or the edge of that cliff. You see the edge, yeah? Got it with me?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I want you to do as an exercise is to go over the edge, go over the curvature, I want you to follow the waterfall.
I'm already flying on the top of the fall, like before it drops off.
I don't think this pilot's going to speak to you if you don't understand what I'm saying to you right now. It's not that difficult.
Well, you're not articulating very well.
Right, so you're at top of the waterfall where it's flat water, yeah? And you're coming towards the edge of the cliff.
Where it drops off.
Understand? Is it clear?
Where it drops off, right?
Where it drops off.
Okay, so I've made no changes to the altitude.
That's what I'm asking you. So you see the edge. I want you to maneuver and go. Your exercise today is to go over it. Follow the water round that curve. What will you do? Will you just fly straight? Will you hold your gears thing just straight and level? What will you do?
So your question is, do I have to adjust the nose to follow the curve of the Earth?
I don't. I'm asking you. If I'm asking you to follow the water around, what will you do?
So what you're describing is a waterfall.
What
comes
you say
down,
curved?
Like, okay. So the base question is, why don't pilots have to push the nose down? Is that correct?
Why are you saying curved?
Because his head is exploding now. He's thinking,
it's a waterfall, man. It's not curved.
I have to adjust for curvature.
Like, waterfalls don't curve. It's in the name. A water falls.
Right.
It gets lower
so I
than
want
where
you
I'm
to
at.
follow the curvature of that fall. What will you have to do? So when you're parallel with the water and you head towards that curvature, what adjustments will you make?
I think he's asking you, what would you do to keep the same altitude above the water as you go over the waterfall?
Yeah, he's making.
So you're going to have to dive and then level up again, I suppose.
It's a schoolboy error because you measure altitude based on mean sea level.
Let the pilot speak. You know,
can
he's
you
the expert in this field.
I'm not being a dick, but can you draw what you mean?
I suppose.
Like go on a crayons and then post a picture.
Suppose I could.
I mean, I have a dry erase board because I was an instructor, so not a flight instructor, by the way, just a crewing instructor. I actually go to flight instructor school next month. Shit, that's come around the corner. So I think you're alluding to compensating for the curve of the Earth, but right now you're just describing flying over essentially. If it were dirt, it would be a plateau. I'm flying over a plateau. The plateau drops off a cliff, and I just keep flying straight.
So, when the water falls over the cliff, that water is curved, yeah?
It's falling. Yes, it's going from horizontal to vertical. Yes, like it has some momentum. It's not just gonna do a 90-degree turn. It's gonna curve a little bit downward.
Timo, what do you think the radius of that curve would be as it goes over the edge?
That's what I'm asking the pilot. How much he would adjust for?
Do you think it curves up? It doesn't curve up and over. It just falls.
I know. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking how much you would have to adjust.
So why would I have to compensate for it falling when I'm just flying level?
No, you're going to follow the curvature of the fall.
Okay, so I do want to dive vertically with the waterfall, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're going to follow the curvature of that. You're going to fly parallel
and
with the water.
Point the nose straight down to the ground.
There's no full-scale airplane I know of that can do that.
No, that's. Maybe the Red Bull helicopter might be able to pull it off if the updrafts aren't terrible. I don't know exactly how the currents are.
Yeah, a bit like James Bond or something, you know. So you're going to do like a stunt.
So you're saying I want to go from level flight to pointing the nose down.
Yeah, so you're going to see the like the edge of that waterfall.
Then I push the cyclic forward. That's what the cyclic does.
So you'd be adjusting for curvature.
No, I'd be adjusting for wanting to go straight down.
Yeah, so you were level at first, and then in front of you, if you're going to follow that path, in front of you.
I mean, do you not think that airplanes fly in three-dimensional space?
No, I'm asking about you when you fly over the curvature of the fountain. Will you make any adjustments?
If I want to go down, I have to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
If I want to change my altitude, I have to change my attitude, or in the case of a helicopter, my collective.
Yeah, but why not just let gravity turn you over the curvature of the fountain? Why should you make it?
Because your pressure altitude doesn't change.
Yeah, but I'm asking, why don't you just let gravity take you around the curvature of that fountain?
Okay, so all right, so fundamentals of flight. Okay, I'll do the Barney version. All right, to fly at a specific altitude, and in fact, I've got pictures. Hold that thought. I'm gonna send. Just happen to fucking have these. Good luck. See if you make sense of this. All right. So I'm sending 2 images right now, and they are called performance charts. If you notice, those performance charts are based on altitude and they're based on temperature. All right. So to fly at a given altitude, I need to apply a certain amount of power to maintain that altitude and that airspeed. Okay. So as long as, according to this chart, let me pull up the first one and actually look at it. If I minus 35, fuck that. I'm not flying when it's that cold.
Trying to avoid the question.
Minus 15.
Why are you avoiding the question?
I'm answering it, but in order to answer it, you have to have a fundamental understanding of how flight fucking works. So you're saying that an aircraft, based on its power setting, flies based on its distance above the ground, but that's not the case. It's pressure altitude. So if the top of the, I don't know how tall the Niagara Falls are, but arbitrary number here, say that its pressure altitude is 2,000 feet at the top. And it's, I don't know, how far of a drop is Niagara Falls? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
Maybe 150 feet or something.
150? All right, so arbitrary numbers here. 2,000 feet at top of the falls, all right? And that's MSL. That's pressure altitude. It has nothing to do where the ground is below you. If the waterfall comes down 150 feet, that's no longer 2,000. At its base, it's not 2,000 feet pressure altitude. All right. So with the power applied at the velocity I'm going, the angle of attack that I'm applying, it's going to stay at 2,000 feet. So I will always fly.
Here, sir. I'm asking you a very simple question. You see the curvature in front
you're saying
of you.
gravity should you're saying gravity should pull me down because suddenly the ground is further below me. However, my pressure altitude is the same. So it will not pull me down because I haven't changed my airspeed. I haven't changed my power applied. I haven't changed my angle of attack. So there's literally no reason for my aircraft to fall further than that pressure altitude that power setting has me flying at.
Okay, so if you see, okay, great. So what you're saying, when you see curvature, you don't have to account for any forces pulling you down, right? When you're flying over the flat level plane, why, when we see curve to the horizon, you don't adjust for that curvature?
Because
like what you're telling me now.
Hold on, let me just Barney style this shit and draw it real quick. Because this is absurdly easy to explain. All right, so. And the whole nose pointing down, my argument about the nose pointing down is that it's a useless argument for either side to make.
No,
okay?
Why don't you point your nose down? You just said you
I'm
would
about
have
to
an
explain. I'm about to explain.
Go on then.
Calm down. All right. I am drawing a little stupid thing. All right. And when I'm done with it, I'm almost done. I will share it in there. How do you make straight lines as opposed to, there we go. Alright, file, save as, fucking, yeah. Alright, here we go.
No. The Earth is curving, and he's flying.
Hold on, man. You asked a question. Let me answer it.
I'm just talking to No Name in the chat here. I'm just saying because he's saying
I'm sorry.
because of aerodynamics, and no, he's wrong.
Okay.
Again, if you see the horizon.
All right. Hold on. Just look at my picture. Ignore him. All right. The small circle is a surface. The larger circle around that is a pressure. That is an altitude above the surface. So arbitrarily, we'll call it 10,000 feet. Okay. As I fly, if I have power applied, angle of attack, velocity to fly at 10,000 feet, and I change nothing at all, I will constantly fall to 10,000 feet. I will not go into that straight line because that straight line goes into higher altitude that I don't have the power setting, angle of attack, or velocity to stay in. So it will naturally just fall to that pressure altitude. Now, if I fly into a high pressure system, temperatures drop, so the air becomes more dense, and suddenly it's more usable for flight. So I will actually elevate. If I fly into a hotter environment, that density altitude becomes a lot lower, and now I just fall with no change in power setting because density altitude will adjust for pressure altitude because of temperature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but not on a flat, not on a globe, because on a globe.
I just showed you a picture of a fucking globe with a pressure band, man. So that straight line will continue going to higher altitudes that I don't have power applied for. So if I change nothing, at all, I cannot possibly climb to a higher altitude.
That pressure band requires a force. You don't have that force.
Okay, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the fact that there is a pressure gradient in the atmosphere. Are you going to argue right now that there's not a gradient in the atmosphere?
Where does the pressure come from?
Okay, we're not. Don't change the subject.
Stop obfuscating. Stop derailing. Stop talking about magical forces that you can't demonstrate.
Listen, I'm not. I haven't even mentioned a force.
You said pressure. Where does the pressure come from?
Is there? Is there or is there not a pressure gradient in our atmosphere, regardless of what causes it? Is there or is there not a pressure gradient?
How can you have pressure without a force?
Answer the fucking question. Is there a pressure? Is there a gradient or is there not? You're changing the subject. You're changing the subject.
No, you're changing the subject. You're bringing in a force that doesn't exist.
I'm telling you why on a globe Earth or a flat Earth, no compensation has to be made because pressure altitude didn't change in your scenario.
Yeah, but you brought in pressure. You can't have pressure without a force.
Okay. We're not. Who cares about the how or the why?
Don't bring in forces or pressure into this. Just bring in your plane.
Yes or no question. Yes or no question. Are you denying that there is a pressure gradient in our atmosphere? Never mind why. Are you denying that it actually exists?
So you're saying there's pressure out there?
I'm saying there's a gradient. Are you arguing that? Where does that
pressure come from?
You know what? That's not the point of this argument. I can argue that all day, but that's a whole different subject.
No, it's not.
You're talking about gravity. No. You're talking about why an airplane doesn't have to point the nose down as it follows it.
Yeah.
The fact is, the solid fact, never mind the reason why there's a pressure gradient, is there or is there not a pressure gradient in our atmosphere? It's a yes or no. It's not a why.
Well, I don't know because there cannot be pressure.
Okay. All right, so let's prove that there is. Okay, so I drive a turbo car, right? The average the average naturally aspirated engine, if you go from the base at Colorado Springs up to the top of Pikes Peak, will lose about 75% of its efficiency and power. Okay, why? Because there's less air up there. There's less pressure. A turbo car, which forces air into a certain PSI as best as it can, will maintain that same pressure so a turbo car does not lose even close.
Can we get back to reality, Hammer?
No.
You're going into fantasy land now.
You are actually making the assertion. You are saying my example is false, but you won't confirm or deny whether or not there's a pressure gradient.
Because you won't tell me where the pressure comes from. Where's the force that creates the pressure?
It doesn't fucking matter in this. Is there a pressure gradient or not? It doesn't matter to
Right, can we get back to reality anytime soon?
Okay. Can you tell me why the pressure gradient, whatever the cause is not relevant to whether or not an aircraft has to follow the curve?
Because you're making things up. How can you have pressure without a force?
That's not even part of the discussion.
Right, so just make it up then. Tell me your story then. Go on, tell me how these magical things work.
I just showed you, and apparently that's like well over your head right now.
Yeah, because you're telling me fantasy. You've told me about pressure without a force.
Okay.
You're just lying your
What's
butt
next?
off.
You're going to make something else up next, and I just have to believe you.
No, I mean, he's chemo. He's a dickhead.
I asked you a very simple question, Hammer, about your...
And I asked you a very simple question. I asked you...
No, I kept it in the real world. You and your helicopter.
In the real world, there's a pressure gradient in the atmosphere,
not making up fantasy things.
Okay.
Chemo's stuck and he's trying to wiggle out of it, that's all. It's
in the real world... Is there greater pressure at the surface than there is in higher altitude?
Look,
that's a yes or no question. That's a yes or no question.
Look,
I'm not arguing why.
Let's go back. Let's start again.
I'm asking you. It's a why can't you answer a yes or no question?
Let's go back to what we know.
Why can't you answer? I am.
Let's go back to what we know. Helicopter.
Yes or no, chemo?
Well, again, how can we know this unless he's going to demonstrate the force?
Yes.
Have you ever climbed a mountain?
Yes, I've climbed
Have you ever climbed a mountain? Okay. Was it harder to breathe at the top of the mountain?
It was just very cold.
It was just very cold. Really? So why do Olympic athletes go to fucking Colorado to train?
I don't know. Why do they?
Because it's higher altitude and it makes their body condition for lesser oxygen. So when they get down to a regular altitude or a lower altitude, wherever they have the competitions, their body suddenly has a lot more oxygen than knows what to do with, and they perform a lot better.
Is that why Usain Bolt runs so fast?
What?
Usain Bolt, is that why he's the fastest man on Earth?
Is he? I don't know. Yeah, I think he made a record. Sure.
Yeah, you're talking nonsense again. Can we stick to the real world?
Talking nonsense?
Yes.
I'm asking you a yes or no question that you're avoiding like it's the fucking plague, and I'm not even arguing why the gradient exists.
Can we get to the real world? Helicopter.
The real world says a helicopter has to account for pressure altitude because it takes a significantly greater amount of power to fly at higher altitude because it's thinner air.
You just make
In
yourself
fact,
look
the
stupid.
charts I just
show me
made
a
it up.
pressure
I
without
just
a force.
posted the actual performance charts that I have to use to determine my fuel burn, so that I know that I have enough fuel to go from point A to point B on a fucking
There's
map
no point
that just
you
happens to be
freaking out
based on
like
a globe
this.
Earth. What?
You're freaking out for no good reason. Show me a pressure.
Because you are literally dodging.
You don't even let me speak now, are you?
You're
just panicking now, right? I've asked you very simple questions. Where did the pressure come from? What is the force? You're freaking out.
It's gravity, but that's another discussion.
Gravity?
You won't even acknowledge that the gradient exists. You're going into another
What's the cause of gravity?
subject, because you know I've just shown you that what you said about Niagara Falls is idiotic.
What's the cause
of
gravity?
Don't let him go there. Don't let him go there. Do not let him go there.
I'm not. You are dodging your own question to me.
So now you know why the
pressure
professional
gradient.
expert
No.
pilot will not speak to you, because you're making things up. You're a fantasist, right?
You're asking a professional.
We deal in the real world. There really is level. Now you're talking about pressure without a force. In the real world, how is there pressure without a force?
Liar. Open mouth and lies fall out.
Emo, how do you deny a pressure gradient when you can prove it with a fucking bag of potato chips?
Where does the pressure come from?
What are you thinking on, Tim? It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Doesn't matter where it comes from.
The
Just make it
argument
all
is
up,
that
yeah?
it's there.
Fine, we'll make
I'm
it the
not
story
arguing
then.
What creates pressure?
Just make it
I'm
up
not
then. Tell me
arguing
whatever you want then. Once upon a time, I flew a
I'm not
plane
even having
and
that
the magical
discussion.
force had an effect on me.
I'm not even having that discussion, and you're avoiding answering a yes or no question.
This is not a discussion. This is not an adult discussion. If you're going to talk about magical forces...
You're a liar.
I didn't even bring up gravity. Dot, you brought up gravity. I didn't even bring
I didn't bring up gravity. I asked you where did the pressure come from. You said pressure. I said where did the pressure come from?
That's irrelevant to the conversation that we were having.
Where does the pressure come from? I don't want to talk about that. I just want to talk about the magical forces that push me down. Or keep
You're
me
the
up.
one that wants to talk about a magical force.
Right, let's talk about the real world. Your helicopter, curvature. Why don't you press and tilt down towards the curvature?
Because a pressure gradient exists. Are you denying
because
that
of
there's
magic.
a pressure gradient?
Got it.
It's a yes or no question.
So because of magic.
Is there a pressure gradient?
Is there magic? No, there is no
gradient?
magic in the atmosphere, no.
So there's no pressure gradient in the atmosphere.
There's no
that
magic.
Is your statement.
Prove there's magic.
So if there's no if there's no gradient in the atmosphere, how come helicopters have a ceiling that they can't get past?
I don't know. Tell me why.
If all pressure is the same, if it's a uniform pressure at 0 feet sea level and 10,000 feet sea level, then why can't a helicopter get above 14,000, 20,000?
There's not enough water up
There's
there.
not enough air or not enough pressure.
Not enough water.
Not enough water. Aircraft run on water?
No, there's not enough water.
What the fuck, man? I could have been saving on gas this whole time.
Helicopters need something to press on, right?
Damn. They run on water?
Not run on water. They press on water.
They what on water?
So let's get back to the real world now. Okay, let's not talk about magic. Let's
tell me
not get
more
all
about
heated.
helicopters.
You're gonna be upset.
Tell me more about turbine engines, rotary wing, and the lift equation and drag equation, and gyroscopic precession, and asymmetrical lift, and leading blade. I'm sorry.
I don't know anything about all that.
You got helicopters and submarines confused.
All we gotta do is point out that the sun lights up the sky behind it. How the fuck can you have a 93 million mile away sun with blue sky behind it? Sun?
Seeing the sun though, we were discussing.
Hello, sun.
Are you now saying that you don't understand
what is the
Rayleigh's
blue
scattering?
stuff behind the sun? What is the orange stuff
You've been
behind
ruined,
the sun?
helicopter
The yellow.
Right?
Chemo, get control in here, Chemo. Get control. You're losing control, sir.
Well, he's fine. What's wrong with Denmark? He's doing nothing wrong.
Why is the blue sky behind the sun? Can you tell me that? Why would a 93 million mile away sun be able to be anywhere near a blue sky at all?
It isn't.
Put it in the queue and wait. Put it in the queue and wait. We're back to Hellfire destroying
I've
Chemo.
never
Shut the
seen
fuck
your
up,
little
Kenneth.
bitty sun leave the face of this earth, this little bitty 6,000 mile earth you got. You're
We're still
6,000
waiting.
mile
We're
long
still waiting for
globe.
Chemo to answer a
You're
yes/no
6,000
question. What's your
mile
point?
long,
Oh, we can get back to that,
8 mile
Mippy.
deep
This is not a one-on-one,
That's right.
remember? And this is not the
Right,
Coast
you got an
show,
8 mile
the
deep
Chemo
globe.
show. This is open for everybody.
Fine, but answer a question
Blue
then.
Marble, can you show us anything more than 8 miles deep for your supposed imaginary globe?
Would you like to stick to the question at hand and stop?
Yeah, I'd like to stick to 8 miles
Why
deep.
don't you do that?
Does that? What is that when you draw that on paper?
No,
Blue
let's
Marble.
go back. No, let's go back.
Blue Marble. Draw an 8 mile line on paper and show us what that is, buddy.
Look, I'm not your trained monkey.
That's
pal.
reality. I'm not sure you're
let's
talking
stick
about
to-
comic
let's
books or
stick to-
reality.
let's
When you
stick to
measure the
comic
dirt,
books
we
where
stick
you
to the
have
dirt. We're
Now,
measuring the dirt and the earth, right?
Someone shut him up so that their conversation can continue.
Dem, you've got to let them answer though.
White Knight.
Can I see you?
Hold on. We do want answers though. We do want. Dem has
Get in
questions.
the helicopter live and show us what's going on.
Moderator.
Right.
Yeah, we're trying to get all that. We do want to. We would like to.
Democ's just running wild, and so are others.
In your helicopter.
Can people stop running wild in here?
20 guys.
Just stop running wild.
Can you stop him?
Everybody, stop running wild. Practice some
Okay,
decorum,
well, show
please.
me left to right in your videos. Anybody got any helicopters going over a left to right curve? Let's see it.
Another good question.
Or airplanes.
Yeah, I love these questions.
Any airplanes?
I guess you weren't here earlier.
Left to right on the screen. No, I guess you're not here now. Left to right, right now. Show it on the screen.
That was actually already a topic of discussion.
Over the curve.
This is bullshit.
No, we want to see it, son. Not talk
Upset
about
the
your
apple
fairy
cart.
tale. Can we see it?
Here it is.
I mean, these are very good questions, but we have to try to let the Black Earthers answer these very interesting questions. There was about 3 questions you guys have to answer. If you can.
After you answer one.
You've got to answer, yeah.
You can't tell me how 93
Oh, don't worry, I've got all the
million
answers.
sun
I've got
can
the
be-
facts, the figures, the numbers. Don't you worry about that. But Dem has questions.
Oh, we already know about your fairy tale comic book globe. We already know about that jank thing that's unbelievably impossible to show. Why is it so impossible to show us the globe?
Please,
show us a little
continue
globe.
your discussion.
Go and learn how to spell.
I mean, I'd really like to, but this is
I'd
just
really like
erratic.
to see any evidence.
I feel like Dot's letting this happen because he wants to avoid the fact that
No,
he didn't.
I think he's helping you, Hammer. Actually, I mean,
No, he's terrified. Of
No,
having to answer a question.
he's completely changing the subject for one.
Don't
But
you
as
think
far
that's
as the
not
last,
The subject
right?
is
We're going to bring this
the
right
ground
back.
or flat.
Hammer, we're going to bring
Is
it
the
right
earth
back.
round or flat as the subject? And you need to look at the ground or the water, which is the crust,
Shut up,
or the surface of the base of the earth. We can only dig 8 miles down.
Dem, please.
Could someone please mute him?
They're going to red button you, and we don't want that. But you have got some very good questions, and they should be answered there. And we can get to all of those questions.
Have a focused conversation. That's all. I like focused conversation.
But you, Mr. Helicopter
So what are you
Guy,
focusing on?
You're in serious
sorry?
trouble right now, Mr. Helicopter Guy, because you're invoking magical forces of pressure that you
But
have
I
no
didn't. So pressure doesn't exist, is what you're saying. Like I asked you a yes or no question, and you're avoiding it.
How?
So it's gonna. All right. Like here, let me give you an example. Okay. All right. Gravity. I know you hate it, but the law of gravity. The law of gravity is like things happen. We see this happen. We can measure things happen. Why it happens? The Einsteinian gravity. It is still theory, a pretty well corroborated theory.
Yeah.
But it's the why. We know that something happens, and we have a pretty good idea of why it might.
You're not gonna let me talk at all. You're gonna just talk all over, aren't you?
So
what you just said.
What I'm saying is, we know there's a pressure gradient. Never mind the cause. I'm not saying why. I'm not even going. There's not a pressure gradient. It's not higher pressure. So how does an altimeter work? Well, not with gravity. Whatever. I'm not talking about the cause. I'm talking about that it exists.
An altimeter has to be calibrated according to the temperature changes constantly, because if you don't calibrate them, they'll think that they're higher than they actually are, because obviously it's colder the higher you go, and the altimeter can be fooled into thinking it's at a higher altitude.
Right.
Yeah.
So aside from that temperature adjustment, how does it work?
I just told you it reads temperature.
Temperature.
No,
I just told you temperature. Listen to what I'm
to
saying.
adjust the
I'm not
temperature.
invoking. Now, pay attention here, Hammett. I'm not invoking
Hold
anything that we don't know already to be true. So you feel temperature.
But you just said something that's patently incorrect. You said something that's incorrect. An altimeter works by measuring pressure. Okay, so that adjustment that you make.
Pressure. Temperature, right?
That's
Hot and cold.
No. No.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you ever?
You just said hot and cold don't have anything to do with.
Do you know the difference
the
between
denseness
pressure
or
and
not?
density altitude?
Yeah. So what happens when you go up there? Is it hot near the bottom or cold?
So here's an interesting
at the bottom,
thing.
right? Colder at the
Right.
top.
So
why is that?
That's a great
Stop
question.
making little
That's a really
toys
good
try
question.
to explain your retarded gravity.
Are you gonna
let
let me answer your question, or are you gonna keep babbling?
He's gonna let
That's
you
what I
answer.
thought.
For sure.
Okay, so at lower altitude, you have higher pressure, and you would anticipate that it should be colder because more dense air is colder, right?
No, carry on.
No, I want to make sure that we agree.
I don't agree
at
with
this
anything
point.
you say unless you demonstrate.
No,
it.
I'm
So just
asking
tell
the
me
other
your
guy because it
story.
was his question.
Okay, to them.
Quiet. Okay.
I'm with chemo.
Okay, so more dense air is colder, right? Lower dense air is hotter. However, where you have more pressure at sea level, where the air is more dense, for some reason is warmer, and as you go higher, it gets colder. So obviously temperature isn't the only factor, and in fact, when we do our altimeter settings, when we call an airport or we're about to take off and we get that 2992 or 3009, it's only an adjustment about 400 to 500 feet.
You
An
say the
altimeter
temperature of
will
the
give.
water
I'm not
doesn't have
done
anything to do with
talking.
it?
I didn't even mention the fucking water. I'm talking about flying over land here.
Well, you said
So,
right above the ocean,
I'm not
right?
done
Sea level?
talking. I'm not. Sea level is not water level. Sea
near
level
water.
is no. So you're saying sea level doesn't exist on the ground? How about the Dead Sea where
No.
it's negative?
No, the sea
Negative
is
elevation.
under the ground. It's not
Not the
on
Dead
the
Sea.
ground.
Death Valley, Salt Lake
The
City.
sea is held by a container like a cup, and it goes
All right,
below the
you're
ground.
way
below the
way
dirt.
off. So we talked about
Well, sea
there
level
being a
is underneath
gradient.
dirt.
Altitude is a reference to mean sea level.
Exactly. So Death Valley or Salt Lake City, I'm sorry. Salt Lake City is below sea level. And it's dry.
How can you be below sea level on a ball?
Because it is not the actual water.
On a
it is
perfect
as he's
sphere.
as oh my sweet dick. Do you ever let somebody finish a statement?
He will. Go on.
Well, I don't see the perfect sphere. I don't get it.
Them is more direct.
Because you're really small.
So try to answer the question directly if you can.
Well, he's interjecting 1,000 times. What should I answer at this point?
Directly.
What question?
Explain a sphere somehow, because we don't see it.
Explain a sphere. So we went from the temperature of air and altitude, how altimeters work, to the general statement of explain a sphere.
You know why that is? Because
a sphere
you know why, Hammer,
is a
Hammer,
ball.
why that happened? Because you invoked a magical force. We were doing fine.
I didn't.
We were talking about. Hold on. We were talking about Niagara Falls, and you going over the curve. Then you said, "Oh, well, I've got a magical force that helps me along." And it was like, "Whoa!"
At no point. At no point, Dot, did I mention gravity. At no point. You brought that up on your own because I said there's pressure altitude.
And Chemo brought up force. We didn't bring up force. You brought it up.
I didn't bring it up at
all.
all.
What happens with helium? What happens with helium? Does it go around the curve?
We're not talking about helium.
Why not?
It's not Dot, by the way. It's Chemo.
You don't matter.
Look, the idea is you went from the real world, because we were having a fantastic conversation about how you were flying your device over the curvature, and then you brought in a magical force of pressure.
I did not bring in a magical force, dude. I said there's a pressure altitude, and apparently you disagree that there's a gradient.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I didn't.
I'm not disagreeing. I didn't disagree. I didn't disagree.
Okay.
I said to you, what is causing that?
So why are we talking about gravity then?
Because I asked you, where does the pressure come from?
That's not the
point. I didn't deny what you said. I didn't hand wave dismiss. I said, "Oh, really? Pressure? Interesting. I'm interested in what you have to say." So I'm asking you a simple question. You said pressure. So I'm like, cool. Tell me more.
12 times, and you're just an idiot.
Tell me more about this pressure. Where does it come from? What causes this pressure?
Is it Kino with an N like November, or M with it like Mike? Chemo.
So where does the pressure come from?
It doesn't matter where it comes from.
That's the point.
So the point is, it doesn't matter where it comes from at this point.
That conversation has nothing to do with flying
doesn't matter
aircraft.
about the wind or the medium. It has nothing to do with gravity.
I couldn't hear you because Jackass keeps interrupting because he can't shut the fuck up for a second.
Now you're ad hominis now. Ad homs. You see? You're under pressure, and a simple question of where does the pressure come from, you break down.
You break down when you're asked a yes/no question. So point being,
you're asking a question that has nothing to do with aviation. That's why I'm like, okay, do you want to have a completely discussion that has nothing to do with aviation? Is that what you would like, Chemo?
No, because let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. I'm trying to show. I'm trying to show that we're not on a globe. I'm trying to show that you don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to expose you.
You're doing a very bad job of it because you don't understand how flight works. If you're going to argue about flight, you should probably know how flight
does it
works.
Tell us what keeps the plane where it's at.
We've told you that.
Equation. Do you know what the lift equation is?
Well, repeat it real quick.
I don't need to know any of these things. All I need to know is how you account for curvature when you see the horizon. Why?
And I'm telling you why you don't have to.
I know. Why?
The whole argument of whether.
You haven't told us anything. You just keep repeating. I'm telling you why you don't have to.
No one was even talking to you, Chemo. The whole reason why I say it's a moot point is because it doesn't support either or disprove either model. Whether the Earth is flat. Shut the fuck up, dude. Whether the Earth is flat or whether it's a globe, the atmosphere in either model or idea, believe whatever you want to call it, in either scenario has a pressure gradient. And an aircraft will fly in that pressure altitude that it's set for based on angle of attack, thrust, the coefficient of lift of its airfoils, power setting, velocity, all that. As long as those settings remain constant, it's going to constantly fly at 2,000 feet pressure altitude, 10,000 feet pressure altitude. Either model has a gradient. I'm not arguing why it has a gradient, but it's there, and that's the only thing that matters to flight. Now, if you want to talk about, can I show you that there's a pressure gradient?
Yeah, get it. No, I just want you to get a little ball and a little jet or a little plane.
So you're being facetious and useless. Can someone fucking mute him? What was you said something, Chemo, and I missed it.
No, it's going to show your angle of attack that you were talking about. So stop trying to mute reality. But go ahead.
Shut up, you.
You don't like reality too much, do you guys? Well, the angle of attack on a ball would be different than a flat plane, son. I know that much.
Why would it be different?
Why wouldn't it? You don't know what a ball looks like? You don't know what a basketball compared to the gym court floor is? So the basketball compared to the floor that's flat, you don't understand? Okay. Okay. Why are you even in this conversation if you don't understand a ball from the ground?
Hold on, I think Blue wants to say something.
So you don't understand how basketballs circle from the ground.
You don't have to keep saying the same thing over, mate. Let him answer.
Yeah.
All right. How is lift accomplished? What's the lift equation?
You need a force.
I need a force.
Yes.
Okay. Can you elaborate, please?
No. If you want to create lift, you need a force. Simple as that.
So if I apply force to a brick, will it fly?
Depends on how much force.
Yes.
What direction should that force be?
In whatever way you want it to
throw
fly.
The brick.
So if you want it to fly...
illustrate this force for me?
Sorry?
The force is your muscle behind the brick.
Yeah, whatever force you put it... why is this difficult?
Is that flight or is that thrust? Something
that's
being
flight,
pushed?
Son.
Yeah, all of that you need... you need a force.
Lift. How is lift
It's flight,
created?
and I don't see that following the curve.
How is lift created?
Without a force,
by you picking up the brick off the ground.
Lift, thrust, or any of these
not
things.
Flight. That's being lost.
Well, you said you're throwing a brick, so you got to pick it up first, and then you throw it like a baseball.
Yeah, the brick is flying if you throw it.
Lift is not the same as thrust. So explain to me how lift is created.
How did you get the brick off the ground?
No, hold on a second, Dan. Hold on a second. We're not pilots, okay? We're just simple guys, regular guys asking you professionals questions about the world that we live in.
Okay.
So if you're saying if you're saying there is a force,
you're too simple to understand the answer.
That's what I'm saying. Why is he asking us questions? We're just simple guys, regular guys. He's the professional.
Chemo.
Yes.
I didn't ask you. I asked him because he said flight was impossible on a certain model. So I would have to assume, or at least assess, what his understanding of flight is. No, you said it can't happen on a ball.
Oh, well, nothing can happen on a ball. Can you show me real water?
Oh, so that's just your own incredulity. You don't actually have information to back
your
up
own
that
incredulity of real water and real balls doing some shit, real dirt and real water.
So
yeah, okay.
tell me,
that's my problem. You can't show a real Earth. Okay.
I've actually shown plenty.
That
of flight
makes
routes
no
that
sense,
indicate
bud.
that there's a route.
Sorry.
So,
welcome to Flat Earth.
Globers, Mr. Chatterbox. Why would
Mr. Non-evidence
not work on a globe model?
Show us. Get your little toy airplane and show us live.
You're the one saying it's not. You're the one saying it will.
Show us how it will is what I'm asking you. Show me. Show me. Do you understand that?
Because lift doesn't depend on the shape
how
of
it
the
will,
Earth.
and you're gonna see why it won't, son.
Show us why.
That's pretty fucking simple. Show me how hot air balloons follow the curve too while they're flying.
Show us why.
Show you how hot air, but okay.
Damn,
so
you've got to let the ballers respond. Come on, you've got to let them respond.
I'm answering your question.
Damn. You've got to let the ballers respond.
Come on, Dim. Put your pants back on. Calm down.
Don't want to be. Yeah. Go on, Andrew.
So a hot air balloon gets a balloon hot, changing what?
That for
gravity.
Yeah.
It changes gravity. What? No, it changes air density. It makes the air hot, so it's less dense. So less
it goes
dense,
the opposite
massive
way
air.
of the ground.
Oh my sweet dick! Can you shut the fuck up and let someone answer the question you asked?
Hold on, you asked me the question, didn't you?
Right.
What are you talking about, dude?
So you won't answer. So okay, your question was, you lost yourself, and it's not surprising. Your question was, how does a hot air balloon follow curve? I asked you, what happens when you heat up a hot air balloon?
Does that tell me how it follows the curve?
Do you know how to have a conversation where you actually
if an airplane follows it on its own, and all you got to do is
we're talking about hot air balloons now.
Stop jumping around. I know. Same thing. Flying stuff through the air, following curves. So if you go take a shit and put your plane on autopilot, and your plane magically follows the curve, why does your hot air balloon not do the same thing?
Good question. That's a very good question.
So if you maintain the temperature of a hot air balloon, it will stay at that same altitude.
Say that again. So you do what? Maintain the temperature. How do you do that?
With the fire that's in a hot air balloon.
Yeah. So how are you going to?
Why do you? Well, there's a thing called a thermometer that measures temperature, and when you put that in a certain place, it'll tell you what that temperature is. And as that temperature goes down, when you want it to make it hotter, you add a flame to make it hotter. And if it gets more hot than what you want it to be,
what degree is your curve at?
Do you understand, like,
what temperature?
Why what you're
saying to get a hot air balloon to get your curve?
Absolutely asinine.
75 curve degrees.
Oh, geez.
So does
you're a total idiot.
Well, how hot do we got to get it or cool for it to follow the Earth's curve?
You don't. You just have to keep it at the same temperature and let the wind take you aloft.
Temperature. So which temperature
if you want it to go up,
gravity
if you want something to go up, if you want a mass of air to go up in a balloon, you make it
I want it to
less
follow
dense.
the curve.
Well, you let the wind.
I want
take
the magic gravity curve
across
number that every hot air balloon person can just write down at home and go use it every time.
Maintain the temperature.
It goes around the curve.
It will stay at the same altitude because the force of gravity is maintaining it. It's an equalization.
What's that degree? What's that degree we need? Did you answer that?
You want me to memorize? You want me to memorize how hot you have to get a balloon at altitude? I don't fucking fly hot air balloons.
Shouldn't it never change?
Should
be the same degree.
Hold on. If it never changes,
change direction, when actually what we're doing is we're counteracting two forces. which is the force of gravity versus the force of lift based on the temperature of the air in the hot air balloon. So when those are equalized, we're going to maintain the same course because the force pulling us down and the force pushing us up is maintaining equilibrium at that area because we're maintaining a consistent temperature. Hence, it will follow the fucking curve. There's no need for, guiding or steering because we've got two forces in balance. Is that clear?
And that goes back to the original point with the Niagara Falls question. Is an airplane is going to follow that pressure altitude.
Because the last time I checked, all the 50,000 hot air balloons, they get together and they have parties and they go over to schools that I used to go to and they get together and they come down and they land and you get to go up with them if you want and you get to go talk to them and stuff. In a hot air balloon, you have your own eyes. You know that, right? You don't need a GoPro lens to fake you out. And it's all flat, son. And when they're all in front of you, you see them all in front of you, behind you, around you, to the left, to the northeast. None of them are going around a curve anywhere, ever.
Because if you're up in a hot air balloon, you're talking about.
You just told me.
Go on, Dan. Let's hear from Druss.
Dem. Everyone stop. Right, Druss, you were saying something.
All I was trying to say is the fact that we have an equalization of forces, which I've talked about. He's saying, oh, what temperature do you need to be? Well, that's going to be the altitude we're talking about maintaining. Yeah, and it's very consistent. The last point that I wanted to make is the fact that even if you're up in a hot air balloon, you're talking about 1 degree of change over 70 miles. So, good fucking luck eyeballing that.
Sounds nice. You're talking about no degrees over a flat plane. Good luck not eyeballing that.
So, you literally ignored everything he said about...
You literally ignored everything I said about you guys lying and the Earth being flat.
You haven't actually said anything that actually was
substantiated. And hot air balloons don't go around any curves anywhere.
Of course they do.
Neither do planes, neither do helicopters, neither do boats, and neither do trains.
Yeah,
show me how this works on a globe.
How far his argumentation doesn't get any better than this.
Why would anybody lie about the truth? What a fucking idiotic thing to say.
Well, show it. Show the truth. What an idiotic thing to say without evidence.
You stood on the bugger. Get used to it.
I literally showed performance
You're standing on a flat earth. Get used to it.
No, I literally showed performance charts that have to be used to plan flights that depict the fact that different power settings are required for different altitudes. And you have nothing to say to that.
Show me your globe with the sun and the moon at the same time, all live. Show me anything on the moon that we can see from our own backyard with a telescope, a happy face, somebody's initials, a color, anything. Show me somebody on the ISS walking live with the spacewalk live on the ISS with different color outfits, or letting a smoke bomb off, or a firework, or anything live.
Just because you claim those things are fake,
just because you can't show any of that stuff live, means you're full of it.
Can't show it. Like, okay, do you know what kind of optics you would need to see a happy face on the moon from the Earth?
Not your cartoons, my eyeballs.
I mean, like, how many pictures of the moon have you taken? Like, with